morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Let me take this time to welcome you to Sunrise here on Tobago Updates Television. I am your host, Lavion Cupid, and we are coming to you live from the Port Mall, downtown Scarborough, Tobago. Today is Friday, the 16th of January, 2026, and I want to thank you so much if you're viewing us via either of our social media handles, Flow, AMPLIA or Digital. Thank you so much for making us your number one choice to wake you up on mornings. It is always a pleasure to be seated here before you. And as always, I take you right into the news brief, into the morning brief, where we keep you updated with all things current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago as a wider entity, regionally and internationally. So starting off strongly this morning, yesterday, a sea of supporters filled James Park as the Tobago House of Assembly's 2026 administration was officially sworn in. Following the historic 15-0 sweep on a Monday, Chief Secretary Fali Augustine returned to the helm with a message of accountability and reform. The ceremony saw a rare gathering of national leadership such as Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Attorney General John Jeremy SC, President of the Senate Wayne Mark, and opposition leader Penelope Beckles, amongst others. All 15 elected assemblymen were sworn in along with 3 councillors, namely Aisha Wallace, Petal Ann Roberts, and Akel Franklin. Former Assemblyman Niall George was sworn in as presiding officer. At 10 a.m. today, Chief Secretary Fali Augustine will host a press conference as he informs the island of his plans to address the worrying gap of accountability following his party's historic win in the THA elections. During yesterday's 13th inauguration of the Tobago House of Assembly, President Christine Kangaloo implored the elected officials to lead by the power of their example with humility, further advising them to welcome civil society who has vowed to keep them accountable. During his speech to supporters yesterday, Augustine said his aim was not to rule as a dictatorship. Taking a look nationally, in some unfortunate news, a woman narrowly escaped death on Thursday after she fell while exiting a PTSC bus and was dragged as the vehicle drove off with her arm trapped beneath it. CCTV footage captured the frightening moments as the bus moved forward while the woman struggled to free herself. Details on her condition and the circumstances surrounding the incident have not yet been released by authorities. Continuing nationally, police seized more than $8.6 million worth of cannabis and arrested 3 people during an anti-crime operation in Beetham Gardens, Port of Spain on Wednesday. Officers from the Special Investigations Unit found 78.52 kilograms of cannabis concealed in 111 packages inside a bedroom at a home on 11th Street. 2 men aged 45 and 32 and a woman were taken into custody as investigations continue. The search was conducted under the Emergency Powers Regulation 2025 with support from the Interagency Task Force. And we are going to be having further conversations surrounding the SOE, the state of emergency, which comes to an end at the end of this month. But the Prime Minister will be taking that bill of the special zones of special operations bill to the Parliament to be debated today. And I'll tell you a lot more about that in a bit. Cuba received, moving over regionally, that is, Cuba received the remains of 32 combatants killed during the U.S. military attack on Venezuela, which subsequently ousted President Nicolas Maduro, honoring them with a national tribute at Havana's Jose Marti Airport as tensions with the United States continue to escalate. The fallen, described as having died in the line of duty while supporting Venezuela, will be commemorated nationwide with further ceremonies and public tributes. And finally, wrapping up internationally in the U.S. as the Trump administration continues its fight to rid America of illegal immigrants. A federal officer shot a Venezuelan man in the leg in Minneapolis after being attacked during an arrest attempt. The incident followed a car chase and a physical confrontation involving multiple people, leaving the suspect and an ICE officer hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting fueled renewed protests in the city, where tensions have been high since the recent fatal shooting by an ICE agent and deployment of thousands of federal officers. All right, so that's it for our morning brief here on Sunrise, keeping you updated with all things current affairs in Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is a wider entity, regionally and internationally. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we are going to be talking a bit about that bill that is going to be put forth to the Parliament today. A lot of it restricts your movement, and so we're going to be speaking to none other than Captain Gary Griffiths about the pros and cons of living in one of those zones and how freely your movement will be. So stay tuned to Tobago Updates Television. We'll be right back with a few. In the meantime, do me a favor and share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
How it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna. Look up below, 'cause this is your show. Live more.
Tobago, the sun is rising, and so are the conversations that matter, from the economy to education, from healthcare to community voices. No spin, no fluff, just facts, truth, and clarity. Join me, Lavian, as we cover the issues that shape our lives, stories we can't ignore. We bring them to the table and ask the questions you want answered.
Who said the elderly can't have fun too? We're talking good food, proper music, lots of games, and a day at the beach they will never forget. From the time we left the compound at Heavenly Care Home for the Elderly, the vibe was already established. Wheels up and seatbelts on. Watch now, when we touched down in Pigeon Point, everybody was ready for excitement. But before anything could take place, we had to secure bellies. You ever play bingo by the beachside? Well, that was the first activity on the roster, and boy did these seniors have fun. However, others wanted something more physical, so we brought out the ring toss, and not even arthritis could have stopped them. Well, I was blown away at how straight these people were. Are you sure this is a home for the elderly? Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday, but nothing beats the song of Good Steel Pan by the shores while we take a dip in Tobago's finest water. Wait, more food again? This is my type of event. The energy was amazing and nothing short of a blessing. Big up Heavenly Care Home for the Elderly, because joy doesn't retire, laughter doesn't age, and memories like these last forever.
To a stranger.
Are you in a dispute with a registered investment service provider of the TTSEC? Or maybe you're the victim of an investment scam? You can lodge a complaint or submit an anonymous tip to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Download our Investor Protection app or go to ttsec.org.tt to access our complaint form or submit an anonymous tip. Write a clear summary of your complaint. Submit copies of supporting documents along with the originals for verification. Provide a copy of the feedback received from the entity regarding your complaint. All investor complaints or scam reports submitted by the public are acknowledged and reviewed by the TTSEC. Investigations are pursued based on the outcome of the review. Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting the interests of investors and the public. You invest, we protect. Everyone benefits.
Viewers, welcome back to Sunrise here on Tobago Updates Television. As promised, we dive into a conversation this morning surrounding a bill being proposed today in Parliament. Now, we as Tobagonians will already know the Tobago House of Assembly bill goes before Parliament today for amendment for the number of secretaries. But also there is a Zone of Special Operations Bill 2026 being presented by the Prime Minister, and it goes on to say that the Prime Minister is seeking sweeping new powers to declare any community in Trinidad and Tobago a zone of special operations under legislation to be laid in Parliament today. A move that will allow for joint police and military operations, curfews and movement restrictions once the bill is passed into law. So this morning we speak on that with Captain Gary Griffith. Of course, he's a former commissioner of police and also has personal accolades to his name where military operation is concerned. Captain Griffith, good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning to you and to your viewers.
Thank you, sir. So the bill that is going before Parliament today, zones of special operations. We know that the SOE comes to an end at the end of this month. So we don't know if it's a replacement, if the government had intended to possibly run the country for a prolonged time under SOE, because they are speaking of a reduction in crime as of July 2025 to the end of 2025, where the government claims there's been a 42% drop in violent crime and murder due to the SOE that administration implemented. Now that it comes to an end at the end of this month, sir, is this a way of continuing this SOE in a more strategic way?
Yes, definitely. I think I will support the government in what it is that they're doing, and there's a reason I'm saying that. As a Commissioner of Police and a Minister of National Security, I always said that a state of emergency should not be used as a crime-fighting tool because there's going to be a price to pay. The concept of an SOE will always work to reduce crime. We have seen it in 2011 with the UNC administration. We saw it after the 1990 coup. Anytime there's a state of emergency, it gives you the authority to incarcerate individuals without enough evidence, hold them indefinitely. So anybody who's a gang leader, a drug dealer, somebody who has illegal weapons, somebody who's a shooter, an assassin, you corral all of them, put them in jail indefinitely for the 3 months or whatever, and crime will go down because the individuals who are the catalyst towards causing crime in the country, they are not able to do so. So people may say the end may justify the means. The concern happens, however, is that when these persons are released, there's going to be a price to pay because they're going to come out in full force. They're going to be very frustrated. They're going to fight with other gang members now to get back the turf that they may have lost. Persons may have done things outside of their directions. So there's going to be a whole mess that takes place, and there's going to be a massive spike in crime. So the only way to deal with it, other than transforming the police service, is to probably find a way to continue to curb this by again, instead of now they've reached they cannot go to the SOE again. They've turned now to the zone of special operations, which is something that I would have considered, by putting specific places to lock down and give the law enforcement authorities that cutting edge, so that the scales of justice can be tilted towards law enforcement rather than to the criminals. And I think the reason why the government has no choice to do this is because the present Minister of Homeland Security and the present Commissioner of Police, remember I keep saying that it's no fault of theirs, they were middle management. They were middle management. Imagine you're a clerk in a company and then all of a sudden you become the CEO or the general manager. That is what has happened to these individuals. So they don't have the training, the expertise or the knowledge. So come April will be a year, both of them practically will be in office. And in that year, there's not been one new policy, one new unit, one new piece of technology, one new system, one new operational plan, nothing. There's been nothing. So if there's nothing, and crime was 600 murders odd in 2024, it means that the crime would have continued. So I think the government, in the absence of those in authority, putting in any policies, technology, equipment, units, systems in place, they have to turn to the SOE and now a watered down version of the SOE, which is the Zone of Special Operations.
Captain Griffith, I want to get back. I don't want to veer too far off, but I want to get back to the Zone of Special Operations. But as we're talking about crime reduction and the SOE, the government's crediting the SOE for that, there is also within Trinidad and Tobago talks of reduced drugs in the country, talks of drug dealers not having that flow of drugs, and there's a shortage of marijuana and so on in the country. My question to you is, do you credit that to good policing, or do you credit that to the U.S. Armada in the Caribbean seas?
Well, again, right now, again, recently there was indeed the kidnapping situation where the individuals paid the ransom. The kidnappers told them, this is go on, you could find them there, and the police called it an intelligence-driven operation. So everything is an intelligence-driven operation. But unless it is that you could have seen new units, new systems, new technology, if nothing was done, then you can't transform the police service. In 2018, 2020, you could have seen the Rapid Response Unit, Emergency Response Patrol, Social Media Monitoring Unit, GPS tracking on vehicles, body cameras, tasers, pepper spray, the Special Operation Response Team, Operational Command Center, the Commissioner's Command Center, live video footage, to Center and Operations Center, online reporting, the police app. There were over 100 new policy systems, units, things that were done to measure performance, make police officers accountable. That is what lifted public trust and confidence tonight to 59%. Then it went down to 8%. So unless those things are done, anytime that there's a reduction in crime, you have to realize the reason why. So the only thing that you would have seen for change was the state of emergency and that present situation that you speak about, with the U.S. putting some type of a stranglehold in the Southern Caribbean as it pertains to transportation of illegal drugs and weapons. So those are the only changes that we would have seen, the U.S. intervention and the state of emergency. There's been absolutely nothing. I mean, the only thing that we would have seen is the Minister of Homeland Security foolishly rewarding a police officer for giving out more tickets than anybody else. So that is your claim to fame of being a police officer. And again, we have to be very careful. I want to take this opportunity. If you look at today's Guardian, there's an article by someone who is referred to as a criminologist, and he has stated that it's because of the transfer of the transnational organized crime in Mexico that has caused the reduction of crime in Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. Let me tell you something. If West Indies win the T20 World Cup, or if France decides to win the upcoming World Cup, he will call this. Every single thing that Darius Figueroa speaks about is about this transnational crime in Mexico. And the media will not ask him, well, please show us the evidence to verify this. You have to come with data, empirical testing, research methodology. You can't be that just foolishly just state as because of a shift in transnational crime that has caused the reduction in murders in Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. In Trinidad and Tobago, as I said, the two main changes would have been the state of emergency and the U.S. putting a stranglehold, which may have caused many persons to hold back in transportation of illegal weapons and drugs.
And even as you mentioned Jamaica, Captain Griffith, we know that Jamaica has already implemented the Zone of Special Operations. But here I want to read an additional part. Within the declared zone, police and members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force would operate under a joint command structure with expanded powers to establish checkpoints, restrict entry and exit, conduct stop and search operations, and impose a curfew within these areas. So I want to zone in a bit about the freedom of movement, because that is what the average citizen would worry about, might feel uncomfortable about. Of course, that would be implemented for the criminals to actually be restricted. We get that, but we're talking about the regular man being able to accept this as his norm. And when the legislation says checkpoints, restrict entry and exit, impose curfews, what exactly are we looking at? How strict are these measures going to be? How flexible, how feasible are we looking at these measures?
Well, it is all going to be based on the circumstances and the intelligence that is provided to the law enforcement agencies to know exactly how to go. So if it is that there's a certain village or town or part of a city, and in that area, the Prime Minister is then going to trigger that proclamation now to give her the authority to allow the law enforcement agencies to lock down that specific area, giving them the same authority that you would have had it been a state of emergency, but just for that one area. This is not the first. Patrick Manning did the same thing in the 1990s when he had a state of emergency, and with that curfew, it was just specifically to put one speaker of the house under house arrest. So it was a state of emergency, but in a specific area and a zone to give him that authority, not that the whole country was under a curfew. And it was just for Okasipol to be under curfew so she couldn't leave her house. So this is something similar, but not for political benefit, but more so to be able to deal with locking down criminal elements in a specific area, giving the police that authority to kick down doors in a house without needing a warrant, to hold someone indefinitely and to have them arrested, even though you don't have evidence of such that outside of this law, you would not have been able to do so. So there is going to be some degree of taking away the constitutional rights of citizens. And that's why I'm really curious to know how this is going to be passed, because anytime there's a bill that is going to infringe on your constitutional rights in a major manner, you need to have a majority of votes, of 2/3 majority in Parliament, because it is not going to require a simple majority, unless I miss something. So, but again, as I said, I think it is very important that it is done because of the absence of the Commissioner of Police and the Minister in pumping any policies, units, technology, systems in place. And in the absence of that, Trinidad and Tobago could fall. So the ZOSO is important. And if it is, there are two things, however, as you spoke about in that specific area. I think how it is drafted, it is only towards an area that may be caused that there may be a degree in crime. So what the police may now do is just look at the data and say, okay, there are many murders that have taken place in this particular place, so let us have ZOSO there. That is not how you deal with it. That is like, it is known in cricket as setting a field for bad bowling. It is like you lost your car keys in a street and you decide to look only under the street light to see if you could find your car keys, knowing that the keys may have been lost somewhere in a darker area. What you need to do to deal with reducing crime is not just pinpointing the areas where the murders are taking place, but to be able to use ZOSO to be able to pinpoint specific areas where the persons are orchestrating the crime, that being gang members or whoever that are in a specific house that they are meeting together. So even though that area may not be crime-riddled and there may not be a degree of crime in statistics, if that area could allow not, so it should be used not just in areas that have crime, but also areas that are contributing towards crime, such as persons who are assembling in specific places. And with that now, you make that raid, you'll be able to get documents, data, whatever, that can assist in even arresting persons for gang-related activity. Another thing that I would consider changing is the fact that what was put is that the only person who would be in charge of the ZOSO in a specific area, apart from being a superintendent in the police service or above, is that of a major in the Army of the Defense Force and above. But what they have totally probably forgotten is that there can be a criminal activity or gangs meeting in a specific area down the islands, on a certain island off sea lots in the water. There can be a vessel that is involved in some criminal activity. So it should be a major or that of a lieutenant commander of the Coast Guard that equates with the rank of a major. So you can't just automatically, because this is a law enforcement situation, the only thing that the Army can contribute. We continue to forget the importance of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, which is an arm of the Defense Force, and that person who is leading such an operation, if it involves something as far as the exclusive economic zone, a vessel out there, an island down the islands, something just offshore, then it should be led more by a Coast Guard officer than that of an Army officer.
So already, Captain Griffith, we're seeing that there might be some gaps. Well, hopefully we're going to listen today to see whether all those gaps would have been closed. But I want to speak again to regular citizens and what you think might be implemented as consequences for persons that would breach any of the restrictions within a ZOSO. For instance, it might be an arrestable offense, a ticketed offense. How do you see that playing out?
Well, it's going to be hard targeting, and it means that if there's a specific area in Zoso where the police are going to do a comprehensive lockdown and have and the army, and there's going to be an inner and outer cordon, it gives them the authority not just to pinpoint persons involved in violent crime, but they're going to stop every single vehicle. They're going to have roadblocks. They're going to pinpoint you if it is that your tint is not legal. If check and see if it is that your vehicle is not inspected properly. If you have a scratch in the back of your bumper that hasn't been repaired. So I would advise all citizens to start preparing yourself for the eventuality, because when you do that ZOSO, it is not, as I said, it is not just going to be targeting persons heavily involved in violent crime. They will use that opportunity, because the one thing, if it is that you can't be involved in pinpointing criminal elements, what you do is that you go and start ticketing law-abiding citizens to say that we did something. A Minister of Homeland Security and a Commissioner of Police had a special event to award a man for doing that. For if a car is a quarter of an inch over a white line, you give a man a ticket, and that is what you reward the individual for. Well done. That's a good job for going out of your way to find as many tickets as possible to citizens. So that is what may very well happen. It is hoped that the police use control authority, which is why it is very important. I could not understand for the life of me, up until 2021, there was a standard operational procedure that made it mandatory that every police officer must put on a body camera if you're going out on a patrol or roadblock to issue a warrant, foot patrol or whatever. After I left, Old MacDonald Jacob and Earl Christopher did not enforce that standard operational procedure. It is still not enforced, and it is a lie to state that there are not enough body cameras, because there are 7,000 odd police officers. I was able to acquire 1,200 body cameras for the first time, and you do not have more than 1,200 police officers patrolling at any particular time. So the concept of it is to have them sign for it as just as you sign for your weapon, and then when you come off duty, you return it, and then we check the body camera to verify if you had it on or off. Failure to do so, you would be fined. So it is hoped that this concept of the body camera must be enforced during any situation in ZOSO, because there are going to be situations, there's going to be confrontation, there's going to be a degree of concern with persons believing that the law enforcement officials will abuse their authority. So the use of the body cameras will be very critical in ensuring that there's more benefit to this bill than any degree of liability.
Captain Griffith, usually before a bill is passed, citizens aren't really paying that much attention, but when it is physically passed and now physically implemented, they now feel the effects of it. Do you think, or do you foresee any civil unrest from the implementation itself?
Yeah, well, that's civil unrest, but civil disobedience, people, because I could tell you how this is going to go down, which is rather unfortunate. This is going to turn into a political situation, because there's going to be the perception, and it may very well become reality, that most of the areas in ZOSO is going to be areas that are controlled under the People's National Movement, the opposition. It is going to be perceived, and it may very well become reality, that most of the areas will be areas that are inhabited by persons who are Afro-Trinidadian and Indo-Trinidadian. So all of these things have some degree of negativity when people are going to say that the police and the government, they're just pinpointing persons because of their race, because of their political affiliation. And it may not necessarily be so. I'm not here to open a Pandora's box, but it is going to be open. It is going to happen. You're going to hear it from the opposition. You're going to hear it from certain persons in the media, activists and so forth, that you're only targeting areas that are under constituencies that are under the PNM. You're only targeting areas that are more Afro-Trinidadian. Why not Siparia? Why not Chaguanas? Why not Couva? Why Laventille? Why Sealots? Why Beetham? Why Belmont? So you're going to get those concerns, and that I hope that there's a proper degree of communication between the government and the citizens to be able to educate the public to ascertain what was the reason for pinpointing certain areas of zones of special operations and not targeting others.
Captain Griffith, thank you so much as you end on such a strong point, such thoroughly thinking everything through, because I myself do predict some sort of civil unrest, and even seeing the racial barriers within Trinidad and Tobago coming into play. As that bill goes to Parliament today, of course, and all the elements of it is laid out, we will be continuing conversations with you as we see how this is going to be implemented and the fallout or positivity therefore after it. Thank you again, Captain Griffith, for joining us. Always a pleasure talking to you. All right, viewers, so we were talking to Captain Gary Griffith as that bill goes to Parliament today, the ZOSO, the Zone of Special Operations, where your community might be put into a curfew at times to enter, exit, who can, who wouldn't be able to, searches, and that goes for all citizens within that area. We're not sure which areas are going to be pinpointed, but we are going to pay attention today. I want to thank you so much. That's it for Sunrise here this morning. But you know, the programming on Tobago Updates Television is never done. We head on over to the morning show with the lovely Renessa and, of course, the very handsome and charming Akinlabi.
Keep it coming, Lavion. Keep it coming.
Good morning, Lavion.
Good morning.
Good morning, my good people. How are you all today? We have a newly sworn in assembly. Feeling fresh, feeling new?
Yes. I like the new executive council, and I'm really excited for the additions that will come after the bill is passed today in Parliament. I really look forward to it. I heard some of what the Chief Secretary said in terms of the rationale behind the expansion, and it's a sneak peek into what greater autonomy will look like for Tobago, and I'm very excited to see how that pans out for us.
Renessa, how were you on all the fashion on display yesterday on the red carpets?
I was particularly fond of Area Representative for Bethesda Lescotto, Zarisha Hackett's outfit. I was really thrown off by that one. I really enjoyed the look, the ensemble, everything about it. I also really appreciated Natisha Charles Panton's outfit as well. I thought it was very clean and sleek. Not only withstanding that, I was also really happy to see that the Chief Secretary as well as his executive going down to James Park after to address the people of Tobago. I thought that was just a really nice spin on the inauguration, including the people ensure that they were a part of such a momentous occasion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Yesterday was fantastic. All right, guys, I want to wish you a wonderful day, and of course I'll see you on Monday because it's the weekend and I'll be getting some rest. Have a great show today. All right, viewers, so that's it for Sunrise here on Tobago Updates Television. As I said before, it wraps up with me, but you head on over to the morning show with Akinlabi and Renessa, and then to Good Morning Tobago with Natalie. And I wish you a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for always choosing us, and I'll see you on Monday.
Welcome to Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, where innovation meets excellence and service reigns supreme. Our commitment is simple: to provide high-quality, innovative aluminum, vinyl, and glass solutions for both commercial and residential spaces. At TGSL, we don't just meet needs, we exceed expectations. Our range includes the finest aluminum cladding options, setting new standards in durability and style. Driven by our passion to elevate, we aim to be the leading supplier in the Caribbean market while retaining our identity as a family-owned business. Because at Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, it's not just about products. It's about relationships. It's about you. Innovation, quality, service. That's Tobago Glass Supplies Limited.
The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. It's who we are at the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. We're deepening our commitment to the region, continuing to invest in the networks, services, and digital solutions that move Caribbean businesses forward. Whether you are a mid-sized business or multinational player, we bring you resilient connectivity, personalized service, and tailored IT solutions, all powered by local teams that truly have your back. We're here to help you navigate challenges, grow, and achieve your goals with practical solutions, reliable networks, and a partnership rooted in trust and your long-term success. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Today is Friday, January 16th, 2026. Yes, we are at the end of the work week. I hope that you are ready to go. Let's give it our last bit of energy. Today's the last day of the work week, people. Give it all that you have. I am joined in studio by the lovely Renessa Ortiz. Good morning, Renessa.
Good morning, Akinlavi. Good morning to Tobago. Good morning to our regional viewers. Good morning to Trinidad. Good morning to our international viewers. Thank you for viewing us here again on Tobago Updates Morning Show.
When I saw yesterday was filled with a lot of excitement.
Indeed.
Yes, and a good bit of fashion as well. We saw the swearing of the assemblymen and some councillors into the Tobago House of Assembly for the new term, and we also heard from the Chief Secretary giving some insight into the rationale behind the expansion of the number of secretaries that is to come later today in the Parliament. What are your thoughts, Vanessa?
I was happy for the accountability in terms of explaining to the public why they are moving the quorum from 9 to 12 rather than having 15 persons within, 19 actually, because when you think about the councillors and the assemblymen, you now have 19 persons within the assembly to deliberate on bills, deliberate on things for Tobago's progress. And if you have only 9 persons within the assembly that you need to pass these things, it's a disadvantage, and it means that you don't need a certain amount, a certain majority for these things to be passed. I thought that was really good in terms of them taking that into consideration ahead of swearing in the secretaries and deciding who would be in charge of which division.
Yes, I also agree with you in that regard, and I think that it is a good move in terms of democracy, and I think that this new quorum will lead to a greater voice of the people being made in terms of any decisions that or policies or initiatives that the THA wants to put forward. So,
especially since in the public space they are worried about there being no opposition.
Yes.
So I think all of this would also help to ease some of the concerns that the public has.
Yes, and I'm also very, as I mentioned earlier, I'm also very excited about the prospect of the expansion of secretaries. We know that the Chief Secretary would have mentioned a number of things that they want to develop from other divisions to give that greater focus on those areas of development, and that is something that is, I know people were wondering why they wanted the expansion of the secretaries, and it's very good that the Chief Secretary could have come out and explained to the people of Tobago why they want to do what they're doing, and it feels very inclusive in terms of the way they're going about, the way they went about explaining it to us, and if this is
how they're
starting, if this is their plan for the next 4 years, then I think that the fears and the worries of them running unaccounted for over the next 4 years, those fears will subside.
Yeah, I agree, because There was only yesterday as well, we were talking about the splitting of the divisions in a certain way, and then to have it actually be put out in the public domain, it shows that they are already thinking far ahead of the public as well, which means that we should be in good hands for the next 4 years.
Yes, hopefully so. Before we get into any more discussions, we have a very interesting lineup. We're still going to be talking about the elections, THA elections 2026, but before we get into any of those discussions, we're going to head over to our news in 90 seconds.
And here's what's making news in 90 seconds for Friday, January 16th, 2026. Yesterday, a sea of supporters filled James Park at the Tobago House of Assembly's 2026 administration was officially sworn in. Following the historic 15-0 sweep, on Monday, Chief Secretary Fali Augustine returned to the helm with a message of accountability and reform. The ceremony saw a rare gathering of national leadership, such as Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, Attorney General John Jeremy Essie, President of the Senate Wayne Mark, and Opposition Leader Penelope Beckles, among others. All 15 elected assemblymen were sworn in along with 3 councillors, namely Aisha Wallace, Petal Ann Roberts, and Akel Franklin. Former Assemblyman Niall George was sworn in as presiding officer. At 10 a.m. today, Chief Secretary Fali Augustine will host a press conference as he informs the island of his plans to address the worrying gap of accountability following his party's historic win in the THA elections. During yesterday's 13th inauguration of the Tobago House of Assembly, President Christine Kangaloo implored the elected officials to lead by the power of their example with humility, further advising them to welcome civil society who has vowed to keep them accountable. During his speech to supporters yesterday, Augustine said his aim was not to rule as a dictatorship. And finally, in Trinidad, a woman narrowly escaped death on Thursday after she fell while exiting a PTSD bus and was dragged as the vehicle drove off with her arm trapped beneath it. CCTV footage captured the frightening moment as the bus moved forward while the woman struggled to free herself. Details on her condition and the circumstances surrounding the incident have not yet been released by authorities. These and other news in our major newscast at 6:30 p.m. Be viewing Tobago Updates Television, and that was your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you very much, Renessa, for that news in 90 seconds. And viewers, it's that time of the program. It's time to celebrate with those who are celebrating with us. It's time for our birthday shout-outs. Yes, at Tobago Updates, we like to celebrate. Whatever you're celebrating, we want to celebrate with you. And we start things off by saying happy birthday to Mr. Sheldon Moore. Happy birthday, Mr. Moore. Today is a special day. Today is the day that you entered the earth and you blessed persons with your presence. God will just blessings on your special day. And we pray that in the coming year, everything that you set your heart to, you will achieve. Everything you put your hands to, it will be productive. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we carry on by saying happy birthday to Miss Dario Peters. Happy birthday to you, Miss Dario Peters. Yes, you're celebrating today. We hope that you celebrate and you stay safe. You surround yourself with friends and family and loved ones, and that you have a blessed weekend and a blessed upcoming year.
And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Suzette McKenzie. Happy birthday to you from the Tobago Updates family. Wishing all God's richest blessings upon your life and in this new year. We hope that you have a splendid day today, and happy birthday to you again.
And viewers, whatever you're celebrating, whether it's your birthday, anniversary, graduation, whatever you're celebrating, we want to celebrate with you. So send us your information, and Tobago, Trinidad, the region, and the world will celebrate with you. Vanessa, what do we have in the program today?
In this morning's rundown, we have Melanie Roberts Rajman. She's a PNM senator, and this morning she's talking to us about the THA elections 2026 and the newly elected THA administration. And after that, we have a usual sports segment with Marcus. So that's all in the rundown for this morning, viewers.
All right, thank you very much, Vanessa. Viewers, we want to thank you for staying with us, whether it's on our Facebook Live or YouTube page, 102 on AMPLIA, 121 or 130 on Flow, and 33 on Digicel. Thank you. Whether you're in Tobago, Trinidad, the Caribbean, or the wider world, we want to thank you for making Tobago Updates Tobago's #1 television station. Do us a favor. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back after these messages.
Our world is filled with rhythm. Rhythm that's unapologetic, infectious, timeless. Rhythm is commitment in action. It's how we show up for each other with unrelenting support that goes the distance. Rhythm lives in the tiny beats of our most intimate moments and the seismic roars of our biggest achievements. Rhythm is resilience in motion. So even when things go out of sync, we do what it takes to bring the rhythm back. At Flow, we understand your rhythm because we live it. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you, with a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do, and our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are at the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you.
Want to get better? Where to start? What kind of exercise to do? What to eat? How to get restful sleep? Need a doctor to search for root cause? Look no further. Come to Majuba Hill Lifestyle Center Foundation at our Wellness Center in Goodwood, or Food Hub in Darrow Springs, Scarborough, or Doctor's Office in Goodwood and Darrow Springs. Contact 49 Swift 4979 438.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back to Tobago Updates Morning Show to our viewers. We are here in studio with Senator Melanie Roberts Rajman. She's with the People's National Movement, and this morning we are here talking about the THA 2026 elections and the newly installed THA administration. Good morning and welcome to you, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning to you and to Akinlabi. Good morning to all of Tobago and everyone who's tuned in. Thanks for having me.
So, Senator, let's get straight into it. The THA elections 2026 and the PNM's campaign. Just some words of reflection on the party's campaign for the elections.
Sure, definitely. I mean, the broadest assessment, I think that we had a very strong campaign. I think we would have seen the party be, re-energized and reinvigorated, especially towards the later end of the campaign. The campaign would have started, and let me go back to even before the election season. So the leadership would have gone, I think this would have been back in 2024, the leadership would have gone to the various communities just to sort of touch base with people, see what they're looking for from the People's National Movement, see what they're looking for from the leadership, allow them to sort of ventilate some of the issues that especially party members would have had for some time. Following that, we would have then gone back out and had a series of community conversations. These would have taken place in 2025, and it was open to the wider public. We had persons coming in to just sort of, again, ventilate their issues, the things that they want to see happening in their communities, the things they want to see happening in Tobago, to give us an idea of what should guide what would later become the party's manifesto. We also use those community conversations to sort of soft launch our candidates, if you want to call it that. It gave back then they were prospective candidates, so to give them the opportunity to sit in their communities, to get that visibility, to hear from their fellow villagers on a very very organic level, and also to get them comfortable with public scrutiny and with hard questions. From that, we would have gone through the caravans, where we'd have gone from village to village, giving short messaging and again reintroducing the prospective candidates. Following, I think, nomination day, we would have then gone into your formal meetings, and we would have seen a beautiful crescendo, I would say, towards the end of the campaign. On my reflection, I don't think there's much that we could have done differently, especially given some of the constraints we were facing at the time. I think it was a very well executed campaign. I think it was a strong campaign, from the launch of the campaign to the launch of the manifesto. I think all of it was well executed, as I said, given the constraints that we would have had at the time. I think that the population may have already decided. The population would have spoken very clearly. So what I see, I guess, as the upside to this is that we know that the party would have gone through, if you want to call it a transition, but we would have had some downtime. And what we have seen coming out of this campaign is all members coming back. We would have seen the energy and the sort of support that the People's National Movement once knew or once had. We have seen that coming back. So it's definitely, I feel like it's the first step in the building back process, at least for the party.
Now, based on some of the comments on social media from members of the public, there is the notion that the members of the public do not trust the PNM as they once did. And based on what you said, they started the campaign long before election to be on the ground and to ensure that some of their concerns were heard, and that is what the manifesto was based off of. What are some of the things you believe that the PNM would need to do to rebuild that public trust, so that the next time the election comes around, they would actually probably have more seats on the THA administration as opposed to none?
Yeah, definitely. I think credibility matters. The People's National Movement would have had a very long history. Where we are right now would have been a reflection, I think, of years and years. First, when the People's National Movement sort of rose to its popularity a couple of years ago, that would have taken years of building to get there. I think now that we are in the position that we are in, it's definitely going to take some time and a lot of work to regain the public's trust. I think we would have heard a lot of public sentiment about changing of the guards, about having some of the more traditional persons that we've seen around the party take a back seat and allow what we would call new blood, I guess, to take over and to rebuild the party. So fresh perspectives, fresh faces, a brand new mandate, new ideas, and persons that may not have been, I don't really want to use the word tainted, but persons who do not have a negative sort of public perception attached to them. So I think it's definitely going to take a lot of work. I know that the conversations have started internally. So what I am hoping to see is new, younger faces coming forward with a passion to govern and a passion, obviously, to build back the party.
Now, Senator, you spoke about new faces coming into the party. We know that there's going to be some internal elections come April. There seems to be, if the sentiment within the party is that they want fresh faces that have not been quote-unquote tainted, for lack of a better term. Do you see there being a sort of gap, a void in leadership coming forward? Because all the prospective persons that could possibly lead the party would be of that old, I don't want to say generation, but of those who would have been already in the public and they may have a certain perception about them. So then we're looking at a brand new leader here. What does that do in terms of leadership within the party and bringing the party together, coalescing the membership of the PNM?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be very clinical and very strategic. When I say that, you rightfully mentioned April is when we would see the internal elections. I think between now and April, what we have the opportunity to do is bring everybody to the table, have the very difficult conversations, do some proper succession planning, so that you would see, I guess, knowledge sharing, some guidance based on experience and based on tradition to sort of prepare whoever the new leadership team might look like for governance of the party.
So I want to go back to the elections a little bit. When the People's National Movement started their campaign, did the party have an expectation to win the election, or did the party have a goal towards sort of revitalizing the base?
Yeah, I think that was the initial goal, to revitalize the base. And that's why I said the campaign didn't just start when election bell was rang. The campaign started back in 2024 when the leadership went out and had those conversations, because the initial goal was really to just sort of re-engage the base, have people come back to the party, do some healing within the party. So that's where we started off, definitely looking inwards, trying to build the party back.
I know that I've had conversations with a number of persons within the party, and as the campaign moved along, you could see that the party itself was revitalizing. More persons were coming out. The base started to get excited a bit. But I was having some conversations with some persons, and they were telling me, "We're gonna win the election,"
right?
Or they're saying we're winning X amount of seats. And I asked them, what gives you the indication that that's going to happen? And they say, well, persons getting excited, the numbers trending upwards, that kind of thing. And then the night came and we saw the 15-0. The question I really want to ask is, do you think that the People's National Movement has a problem in the way they collect data and analyze and assess the kind of support that they have within communities?
I think a lot of that conversation and a lot of that excitement, as you said, would have come from lay persons, so not persons necessarily doing the data collection, but from lay persons just sort of seeing the evolution of the campaign and thinking, yeah, for sure, we crowds bigger, people coming out, people hype, people on social media speaking very favorably about the party. And I think people would have made, just the average lay person, so persons who are not necessarily within the engine room, they would have made the assessment based on just their general observations. Obviously, that is not always the best measure of what your prospects would look like. I cannot speak for what happened specifically within the engine room in terms of data collection. I wasn't privy to that, so I really can't say what the assessment would have been in there. I could talk about what happened on the campaign trail, what we were seeing in terms of the increase in support. And I think it's natural and it's fair for persons, knowing the kind of uphill battle that we've had, knowing where we started and where we came from. I think it's very fair. It was very fair for persons to assume, we would have grabbed some seats, we would have had some success at the polls.
Now, there are persons who would say that based on the lineup of the candidates, yes, they were young, they were fresh, they were new to the political arena, but there's also the scope of they weren't marketing themselves enough. They weren't, yes, they may have gone around in their villages, canvassing and asking questions, trying to see how best they can facilitate themselves and to show themselves worthy of being an area representative. And I know you mentioned earlier that there would be training over these next few years to ensure that the next time the election comes around, there is a chance. Now, what are some of these things that you are hoping to gain in terms of training these young people to ensure that they have that foot in the door and a better chance this time around?
Actually, I quite like this question, So let me start by saying this. Our candidates did undergo some training, I think maybe 6 months prior. They were then prospective candidates. They would have gone through governance training and training in terms of public speaking, how they present themselves to members in the community, that kind of thing. What I would envision would happen over the next 4 years is that the party starts to identify, because one thing we have seen in Tobago is that Tobagonians really want to know that you are immersed in their community, and not just immersed in their communities for the purpose of an election, but authentically and genuinely immersed in the community. So I think, and I can't speak on behalf of the leadership here, but one of the things that I think we would need to focus on is identifying a cadre of potential candidates, a cadre of potential leaders, and have them be immersed in their communities. And that should be based on what the community needs, the community demographic and dynamic, as well as the particular strengths of these persons, and have them in a very organic way work within their communities, give of themselves, give service organically, even without the promise or the hopes of getting into public office. Do the work from now. And then once you have those cadre of persons, obviously when you come around to election time, you're doing the screening, you really are able to choose persons who have authentically been immersed in their community. So I think that's what I would like to see, apart from the formal training, just 4 years of hardcore services within their villages.
And usually, is this information recorded within the party? Is it that they come and they showcase, or is it that it's just based on public perception? Is it based on their social media postings?
Yeah. I mean, I've never done a screening, so I can't tell, but I think there are several metrics that they use. So one, the party groups within the communities would be able to say, yeah, Akinlabi been around. He does usually, be out and about. He helps people, that kind of thing. But I think it's definitely going to have to be even more measured than that. I think these persons, you need to poll them even at different periods to see what the community thinks about them, how people feel about them, about their families, about their backgrounds, what activities are they participating in the community, good, bad, or in between. So I think maybe stronger metrics we would need to use. Governance, I think, is very serious business. I think sometimes political parties and even the electorate don't realize the seriousness of governance. And I think for any political party and going forward for any election, we really need to be more clinical about how we screen our candidates and the persons that we put out there to represent us.
I know, generally persons would feel a bit disappointed about the outcome of the elections, but in terms of the feel within the that higher the engine room of the party, what is the feeling like right now within that space?
I think I'm just speaking as Senator Mel, right? Not within the leadership, but based on the conversations that I have had, I think persons are, of course, disappointed. I think they're still having the initial conversations and assessment. I do not get the impression that persons are they've given up hope or that they're downtrodden or forlorn. I think that it has forced the leadership, the executive, to really take a closer look at what's happening within the party. I think this has forced, I don't want to call it change, but it has definitely forced a different way of thinking. I have seen because it's just Monday, right? Today's Friday. But over the last couple of days, I've been privy to a series of conversations coming from different corners of the parties where people are digging deeper and looking closely at where we started, what the movement initially was about, and not just where we started in terms of some years ago, but where the party itself, the People's National Movement as a party, where we started, what our mandate was at that time, how we evolved over the years, and what we have become, and what we need to maybe go back to or maybe evolve towards in the coming years. So there is disappointment, but what I am getting is a strong reflection then. I've seen persons really dig deep, and I'm hoping that those conversations will continue to happen for as long as they need to happen until we could get back to where we need to be.
No, I know that the party, you said earlier that the main goal was to really re-energize the base, but I don't think that the PNM would go into an election not expecting to win anything.
Yeah.
What was the party's initial projection in terms of the amount of seats they think they could realistically win?
Yeah, just before I answer that, Labi, which I really can't answer that for you, but when I say the goal was to re-energize the base, I would say the goal shifted across the campaign. So your initial goal would have been to re-energize the base, and then from there, we would have looked towards, having a strong opposition, a strong minority, and then once we started to build, we thought, maybe there's victory on the horizon. I can't say definitively what the target was, but obviously I would say the target was probably at least 8 seats, because everyone wants to win, right? You go into the campaign, you put in this work expecting to win. So I'd imagine at least 8 seats is what the party would have expected coming out of this election.
Now, Senator Mel, before we continue our conversations, we just want to take a short break.
Sure.
And viewers will be right back to finish our conversation with her as we dive into the newly elected THA administration. We'll be right back. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We'll continue our conversations with Senator Melanie Roberts-Rajman, and we want to delve a little bit into the newly elected administration. Senator, just give us your thoughts on the new administration to serve the Executive Council for the next 4 years.
All right, I mean, it's early days, so we just need to wait and see. I have noted that apart from the re-election, we obviously have our Chief Secretary continuing and our Deputy Secretary continuing both in their respective positions. So we await. I have noted the appointment of an attorney as councillor. I think it definitely hints to us that the THA executive might be coming with a more robust sort of legislative agenda, if you want to call it that, or even in the Senate, even in Parliament, we may be seeing a more robust legislative agenda as pertains to Tobago's affairs. So I look forward to that with cautious optimism. Let's see what happens. I do wish the executive well. I would say this, we're outside of election season. Tobago is a small place. If governance doesn't work, it affects every single one of us. So I don't think there's anyone, including myself, who wants to see the executive fail. We definitely want to see the executive succeed. I think we're at a very kind of delicate place in history, in Tobago's history, in Trinidad and Tobago's history. So now more than ever, we need the right types of expertise, right types of experience, and a passion for protecting Tobago's interests. So we await what the executive comes with. I think I'd be able to make a stronger assessment after after we get the portfolios, the different secretarial portfolios, then I might have a stronger assessment.
Now, with this election having no opposition, I know that's the talk of the town right now. How confident are you in terms of things being done in a way that is accountable, given that there is no formal opposition there in place.
Yeah, I think that is where I have the most concern. I know that we've had a 12-0 situation before, so it's not the first time that Tobago has seen a situation where there's no formal opposition. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for governance. You definitely need checks and balances. You definitely need a team that keeps the executive on their toes, that ventilates the issues. Having sat in the Senate, I see the value of having an opposition because it forces your government then to be a bit more accountable, a bit more transparent. You get to ask the hard questions, and there are times where the government and the opposition actually collaborate to bring better policy, to bring better legislation. So I think that in Tobago we are missing out on a really strong opportunity to have the kind of governance that we need, the kind of checked governance that we need. I noted yesterday that the president, in her address to the assembly, she would have cautioned about the THA acting without checks or carrying out unchecked activity, and she would have pointed to the fact that there are several civil society groups that have sort of developed in Tobago, and she would have urged them to listen to those civil society groups. And I think that I echo those sentiments. I think we have the Tobago Contractors Association, we have the Business Chamber, and a few other groups, and I think that they need to lean in a bit stronger now, take a closer look at what's happening in the assembly, definitely try to keep the assembly in check. I think it means that my responsibility expands a little bit as well, because I definitely need to not only focus on what's happening on a national level, but definitely keep a close eye on what's happening here in Tobago to be able to ask the pertinent questions, ventilate the issues, and lean in where necessary.
Senator, just the final question before we wrap up the interview. We saw where there's going to be an expansion in the number of secretaries and a bit of breaking up of some of the responsibilities within current portfolios. What are your thoughts on that?
I have glanced at the legislation. I haven't dissected it as yet in detail. I believe the House sits today, and then the Senate will probably convene on Tuesday next week to discuss it. At my initial glance, it seems like it resembles to some extent what the previous PNM-led central government would have proposed as one of the provisions in the Tobago Island Governance Bill. So I think there is some resemblance there. I need to take a closer look at what that is. What I would say is that I do see to some extent the need to break up some of the portfolios so that secretaries are able to really zone in and hone in. For instance, we saw what happened, I think, last year with the, what do you call it, division of tourism, where you had eventually one secretary dealing with culture and antiquities and one secretary dealing with tourism because the portfolios are so heavy. I think in also looking at how divisions are divided or adding divisions, we also need to look at capacity. I think that's something that we've always struggled with, especially here in Tobago, where we have elected officials who might not necessarily have the capacity to head a division. So that's where I would want to hopefully see some more strategic placements, I guess.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Melanie Roberts-Rajman, for joining us to talk about the THA elections and the newly elected administration from People's National Movement perspective. Viewers, unfortunately, we have to go, but the morning show isn't over just yet. Mr. Cricket is coming in. Yes, today is Friday, so you know Mr. Cricket, Marcus Daniel, will be here to discuss all things sport in Tobago. But that's it for me and Renessa. Coming back after the break, Marcus Daniel will be on this chair and he's talking all things sports. So do us a favor. Share the live, share the live, share the live.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna this is your show. More, live more.
Hair goals, we've got them. At S&R Hair Fantasy, we provide a wide variety of quality hair, the latest hair accessories, adult toys, skin lightening products, female underwear, and much more under one roof. Check us out on Shelbourne Street in Plymouth or call us at 317-0808. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. S&R Hair Fantasy for queens who know exactly what they want.
Tobago, the sun is rising, and so are the conversations that matter, from the economy to education, from healthcare to community voices. No spin, no fluff, just facts, truth, and clarity. Join me, Lavian, as we cover the issues that shape our lives, the stories we can't ignore. We bring them to the table and ask the questions you want answered.
Who said the elderly can't have fun too? We're talking good food, proper music, lots of games, and a day at the beach they will never forget. From the time we left the compound at Heavenly Care Home for the Elderly, the vibe was already established. Wheels up and seatbelts on. Watch now, when we touched down in Pigeon Point, everybody was ready for excitement. But before anything could take place, we had to secure bellies. You ever play bingo by the beachside? Well, that was the first activity on the roster, and boy did these seniors have fun. However, others wanted something more physical, so we brought out the ring toss, and not even arthritis could have stopped them. Well, I was blown away at how straight these people were. Are you sure this is a home for the elderly? Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday, but nothing beats the song of Good Steel Pan by the shores while we take a dip in Tobago's finest water. Wait, more food again? This is my type of event. The energy was amazing and nothing short of a blessing. Pick up Heavenly Care Home for the Elderly, because joy doesn't retire, laughter doesn't age, and memories like these last forever.
To a stranger, it's a different type of thing down there. Man, we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there, down in Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Viewers, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Tobago Update Television. Yes, it's a beautiful Friday morning here in Tobago, Friday, 15th January, already middle of the month of January 2026, and we're getting ready to have a conversation. Yes, we're into the sporting segment, and we're going to have a conversation with a man that wears many hats here in the Tobago field, a teacher, a sport coach, also a commentator as well. But he's going to be joining us online, and he goes by the name Soren Bishop. Soren Bishop, yes. Mr. Soren, are you there with us this morning? Yes. Yes. So now, yes, you hear me loudly. Are you hearing me well? Yeah. Just producer. I'm not hearing Soren well. Yeah. Do you unmute your mic if it's muted? Yeah. So I know you can hear me, but I'm not hearing you clearly. So I'm going to try to sort that out and come back to you. We're going to take a break and return with Soren again.
can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
So guys, there are some new developments in housing in Tobago. So it's goat racing time. This is 116, the show that keeps you in the know with all things Tobago House of Assembly. Each week, 116 delivers a fun and engaging overview of the latest developments, achievements, activities, and events of our dynamic assembly. So join me. Let's dive into the Tobago House of Assembly's Week in Review right here on 116.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Welcome to Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, where innovation meets excellence and service reigns supreme. Our commitment is simple: to provide high-quality, innovative aluminum, vinyl, and glass solutions for both commercial and residential spaces. At TGSL, we don't just meet needs, we exceed expectations. Our range includes the finest aluminum cladding options, setting new standards in durability and style. Driven by our passion to elevate, we aim to be the leading supplier in the Caribbean market while retaining our identity as a family-owned business. Because at Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, it's not just about products. It's about relationships. It's about you. Innovation, quality, service. That's Tobago Glass Supplies Limited.
The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. It's who we are at the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. We're deepening our commitment to the region.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Hi viewers, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying tuned. I think we have the technical difficulties sorted, and we are still here with Sowen Bishop. Sowen, let's try this again. You hear me loud and clear?
Good morning, Marcus. I'm hearing you now. Good morning to Tobago, and good morning to the wider listening community.
I still hear it a bit low.
You hear me?
Yeah. All right. I'm here. Sowen, go ahead.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. And so when we're talking about this new organization, Athletics Tobago, I'm seeing that there's a new association that will be treating with athletics in Tobago. And I will get to the previous dispensation because I know there was some contention there. But tell me what brought about the change, or this new association, if you want to put it that way.
Well, in the first matter, athletics, the body responsible for track and field in Tobago needed to get it out in order. And one of the mandates that we were given was to dissolve the previous organization or form a new one. Mm-hmm. And the club unanimously decided that in the best interest of athletics, that we needed to form a new organization, and what is put in place is sort of on an interim basis until we can make it a little bit more permanent. But in the meantime, Athletics Tobago is the organization that will be recognized by the Tobago House of Assembly and by the NCHAs as our national overseeing body that will be running athletics in Tobago.
But why interim?
Well, what we have just have interim organization to just ensure that everything happens in a smooth manner just for the 2026 season when going forward. Everybody that is selected or elected will serve on an interim season in the sort of constitutional factors and everything else and there.
And tell me about the makeup of this interim body.
All right. So we did as much as possible to have members from the people family in Tobago, so different clubs after representation. I was asked to serve as the president. I'm seeing from RSS club, he is the vice chairman or the vice president. Chelsea, Susan Reed is the secretary. We have Angel Young, serving as the treasurer. We have Colin Mark, and I think can't remember some of the other persons beforehand, but we have representation from each club serving on the executive at the moment.
And in terms of putting together this new committee, and you said that you had buy-in from all the clubs?
Well, at least 7 out of the 8 clubs were represented at that meeting.
Any particular reason why the one missing club didn't participate?
I can't say no.
Okay. And is it the goal of the new Athletics Tobago to ensure that we have all the clubs under this body going forward?
It is the goal that all aspiring clubs who want to start a track and field club and come under the fraternity, they are free to do so.
And in terms of goals, what are some of the short-term goals and long-term goals of this new dispensation that will be controlling or running track and field in Tobago?
Well, in the first, we are going to be having relationship with the Tobago House of Assembly, and to also be the liaison between the NCHAs, which is the national governing body, and the CPHA.
Oh, fantastic. And so in terms of athletes, so is it that athletes can now come and approach this organization, even though it's interim, for support for this upcoming season?
Well, athletes will be registered with their club. So the club will definitely have that conversation with the organization. And it's a committee by the authority.
And that's what I note that the athletic season once again in Tobago, we are going to be going to the Shore Park Recreational Ground. May not be ideal, but is it the plan of this association to at least have a conversation with the ministry, because the ministry in charge of the Dwight York Stadium, to see how best we can get that stadium back up and running very soon?
Well, at present, the NCA is national governing body. We are sort of allowing them to inside the national body. I believe conversations have already begun. To be also the agent of the Tobago club in this space, also have a voice, because it is in our best wishes to have that stadium up and running. No stadium means that some of our athletes are at a disadvantage to some extent, but we are back to Shore Park, and we have to make you as a result of no stadium and no state that they are limited opportunities, limited needs that could be brought to Tobago, and therefore at the time and the distances for the field events would be hampered. Therefore, we have to travel to that for these that to be recognized for various international qualifications.
There, we know that character games are in Easter every year, and in and around probably this month or month 10 here and February, we're going to start seeing events where we can have character standards being met. In terms of that, plans for Tobago athletes, how are you guys going about that to ensure that our athletes meet the standard?
Well, in the meantime, as I just said, we have to make the arrangements to have a travel center and the expenses that can be. So in collaboration with or support collaboration to assembly and any other entity that we can make those arrangements to make it possible and sort of sponsorship or anything like that. Because it can be very expensive, but it get very expensive, especially times such as this year. And what I would look to is that athletes would have to make certain, would have to some meat under their belt before they can't show up in trials 1 weekend and expect now it can happen in instances. But if you're dealing in and people know this is a results and the more times athletes get repeat certain events, for example, skills that around jumps and some sprinters, you need to perform at a peak time. So, I mean, in Tobago, we need to plan the already calendar to plan very strategically in terms of when we're going to go to Trinidad, how many athletes you're going to take to Senegal, and the events are having that evening. So we are a bit more, we're like at a disadvantage, but we hope later on into or later on in the year that people can happen where people can have club stadium back or clubs can go back to training there. Even if it's not regularly, we have some being on track that on track of
Fantastic. And you mentioned you already put together a calendar of events. Can you just take me through some of the events that are going to be taking place at Shore Park? I noticed yesterday I saw Mason Secondary School had their sport meet. For those who probably viewing this interview right now and may want to take in some track and field, do you have an idea of some of the other meets that will be taking place at Shore Park?
Well, it is a very busy period. School, secondary schools are there. It's last day is taking place in the category of the day, and they are to be doing today. Over the weekend, I really that the Infant World Cup Gold League is coming to go, and there's that short that weekly back on the all will be at 9 o'clock and it goes until about 5:40.
That's this weekend here?
The team for taking that that's the last that's coming to the again. So at least they go are going to be having an opportunity to have some sort of competition under their belt. used to be.
Okay, this Golden League event by Keishon Walcott, is it this weekend?
Yes, this weekend, Sunday.
Okay, and do you have any other information in terms of, is there going to be a cover prize, and
so it's a free event, and the entire public is invited. Some of the or most of the Tobago are going to be open to the season at the event. It's a free event, and we just asking the campaign probably and also to the participation level. So just to show back and give you what we have to go here. A couple of some children that are also displayed as well. It will be a full house, entertainment, and
fantastic. And so just before I allow you to go, I saw recently where Tobago-based clubs were rewarded handsomely at the AMPLIA Awards. A number of athletes say they won awards at the AMPLIA's end of year presentation. I mean, if you can, remember some of those names, and you can list some and clubs. I think athletes and clubs got awards at the AMPLIA's year-end award ceremony. Just to highlight a few if you can.
Just allow me quite a time, right?
Yeah. I saw names like Gloria Henry as well in the mix.
That is Gloria Henry, good the things from RSS subsheets that are on that good. We had Kenron Orr from RSS as well. We had Deja Reed from the team field. This one really everybody says that character that keep him.
Yes.
And the most outstanding performer at the character game, and she was also nominated Youth Actor Year. This weekend, she's not from my club, but I think it's South of Water. If for everybody who doesn't know, it's Africa, she attended with Heidel girl.
Right.
And I think weekend last week when she happened to
fantastic.
Games record there. We expect big things from people.
Definitely.
Yeah, we love technical officials, but you focus on our Mr. Colin Mark, who a long-standing technical official.
The very distinctive Colin Mark. You can't miss his voice no way at all.
He was a lot pressure to get track and field community. Yeah. And we had the two honors for the cup to get both Music Island and Boy Trust, both clubs. It's big on track and field first. And so go into the track and field and field.
Yeah.
With last year, and national team. But from with Tobago, which is starting to give our love and support.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, we have to leave it here this morning, and always a pleasure talking to you. And I'm looking forward for more information on this Athletics Tobago. I like the name as well, Athletics Tobago. And congratulations on your appointment as the interim president. And to every single member of this new Athletics Tobago, I wish you guys all the best. And I trust that we will not have a situation that would have transpired in the past. And you guys will have the best interest of track and field in Tobago. Good luck this weekend as well. And I look forward to having more conversations with you on Athletics Tobago. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Viewers, we've been chatting there with Soren Bishop, interim chairperson of Athletics Tobago. Yes, Athletics Tobago, these guys found themselves in an organization now in which they can champion the cause of track and field here in Tobago, and I certainly wish them all the best. This Sunday in Shore Park, as you just heard, Keishon Walcott's Golden League is going to be happening right here in Tobago, and it's all free of charge. Some of the best athletes in the country will be on show, so you can get down there on Shore Park and support the youngsters. This has been the morning show in the sporting segment. We do have Natalie right after the break with Good Morning Tobago. Yes, but of course, don't forget to share the live, share the live, share the live.
are here at the Scarborough General Hospital Medical Imaging Department. This morning, we actually hand over our brand new 64-slice CT scanner, replacing the 16-slice scanner that we've had since the inception of the hospital. We've had a CT scanner, but this 64-slice will enable us to have faster, shorter scan. Efficient fashion, enabling better diagnosis, and it will also enable us to do things like CT that we could not have.
Great. So it is really, really an honor being here this morning to finally participate in this ceremony. Of course, we know that the CT scan is one of those pieces of equipment that can really help us with a whole lot. Its capacity to see what is happening within the body means that it can help us when we're dealing with trauma, even when we're dealing with NCDs, when we're dealing with a full gamut, cancers, when we're dealing with a full gamut of diseases in terms of diagnostics. Ready? Because oncology is an illness that most people think is the end of life and oh gosh, your family member is dying, there are a lot of support for patients. Therefore, a lot of patients, relatives, friends and well-wishers follow them to clinic. The building that we now exist in is really small. We have 6 chairs in the waiting area, and then we cannot accommodate patients and relatives. If it rains, relatives have to find their cars. The sun is too hot, relatives have to find under trees. This situation was untenable. Therefore, the proposed move is welcome. I've been to the place, I've visited. The ambience is good. I know there is some construction to be done to make it fit for purpose at this time. And I do believe and I do feel that move, we will be able to enhance the care we give in various ways, because then we'll have space. Relatives will be able to come and sit with patients. That kind of intimate support will be there. For me, if I have to say yes or no to the move, I would have said yes in 2012, 2013, thereabout, when the population started growing. That is after we had started in 2010, and patients knew that we had services available in Tobago, and they start migrating from Trinidad. Definitely, patients, relatives would be happy. Patients would be happy. Staff would welcome, because the unit is definitely tight. You can't move a wheelchair around the unit. There's one patient toilet. The situation is not good as it is.
About 40 years ago, I got into an accident, and I was a blue, sterile stuff now. And I had a scan. And I was always conscious of feeling the scan. So one day I felt it a little uncomfortable. And I started to test, check it, until I decided to have a checkup. The doctors and the nurses and them, they were really nice. You could see they were operating under duress. The place was uncomfortable, inadequate, not comfortable to sit for privacy, and because it's cancer, because you're doing it, and you want the service, you go. If it was for any other reason, you would have looked for somewhere else to go. For the needed.
This is where, for instance, if I have to speak to a family about what was going on, I have to have the patient and all the relatives in this space. It's not really conducive to that sort of conversation, especially if the news only chemotherapy, we want to see you a week later to see how you're going and check your blood count, and then a lot of times that's a second journey to St. James. A lot of people would just disappear for 3 weeks, and we hope we see them when the next treatment session comes around. It would allow for patients to, one, have a bit more privacy, and even have a relative come and spend some time with them while they're doing the treatment, if the treatment is going on for hours. Having a privacy would make people at least more at peace to know that, just because I show up at that building, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is treatment in a more beautiful environment, a more calming environment, could only make things easier for patients. they're going through enough as it is just with the illness diagnosis and coming to grips with that.
I'm so happy to know that you are doing something about it, but it's about time.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to GMT. Good morning, Tobago. It's always a pleasure to start my Friday morning off with you. I am your host, Natalie Seeley Richardson, and we're getting right into our interviews this morning. I know you have been waiting for us to start this morning, and sitting next to me is the Assemblyman for the Buku Mount Pleasant area, Mr. Keegan, and let me call the entire government name, Mr. Keegan Caleb Dinoon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Natalie. Good morning, Tobago. A special good morning to the electoral district of Buku Mount Pleasant.
And of course, let me say congratulations to you and to all the other assemblymen who were sworn in yesterday, because the work begins. I know that we are coming out of the campaigning season, and a lot of people really invest their time and energies and just the exuberance of a people in campaigning. And I always remind my friends that, you know, after election day, after we vote, the work begins. We just have to get back to normal. I always tease and say, you know, whoever goes in there, I still have to get up early, work, figure out how to buy groceries, etc., you know, but we are all looking forward to see how the TPP leads out here in governance on the island. And getting right into you, we have viewers who may not be familiar with you. Of course, people in Tobago understand your work and your background as a youth advocate, and I just want to let our viewers know that you have been a former CARICOM Youth Ambassador. You have held the reins in leading out in the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Ambassador, and I know you're a mentor for youth. And I want us to start our conversation there because I think it's a big part of who you are, who you have become, and what would have led you, you know, to align yourselves, your principles, and want to do so much for the youth on the island and by extension Trinidad.
I mean, that is an excellent question. The thing about it is, Natalie, my entire life has been a life of service. And when I was much younger, as a part of one of the youth clubs that I was in, an older gentleman reminded us that you have to be the change that you want to see.
True.
And so instead of complaining about the challenges that you see around you, look at how you can find solutions to them. Because anyone can be a problem spotter, but there are few persons who are solution spotters. And so look at every issue, not as an issue, but as an opportunity to contribute to creating a change in your environment, thereby making it a lot better than you left it.
Right.
And so over the years, I have been a part of what we would call the youth movement. And unfortunately, the youth movement is not as rampant and robust as it was in the past. And that is something that I'm going to actively seek to ensure that we revitalize on the island. Youth development is important because the youth are not only the present, but they are the future. And the investments we make into the young people today is going to directly affect the society we live in tomorrow. And so as an administration, one of our first order of priority is to ensure that the young people are not only seen and heard, but are placed in positions to make meaningful contributions, thereby being able to become better contributors to the socio-economic development of this island.
And even as we talk about youth, I like to narrow in on males, because I think in our schools, they get lost, in the workplace, they get lost. And, you know, if you look at our education system, most of our teachers are women. And they would, of course, have that inform them, though they may have done particular courses at university, etc. But how the boy child learns differently from the girl child. I think in the everyday, you know, whether you want to say stress or the demands of the day, sometimes it gets lost. And I think our boys are not being catered for fairly in a system. I mean, I have 2 boys and I'm very aware of it because I have become a mother of 2 boys. So as you engage youth, how do you, without creating an imbalance, focus on our young men who are supposed to take their place, you know, as leaders, whether it's in their home, in their communities and on the island?
And you touched on a topic that I'm very, very passionate about, and it's called male mentorship. We understand that most of the programs and so that are structured in our culture and in our society are targeted towards women.
Right.
And if you had the opportunity to look at our men's debate, you would recognize that we would have highlighted some of the key points that are affecting our males in our society. One of them being underperformance at schools. One of the solutions, but not the only solution to this, would be ensuring that the young men in our schools have mentors, have role models that they can look up to. Because, like it or not, as you rightfully indicated, most of the teachers are women. However, a woman being a teacher has been able to groom and produce exceptional men in society.
Correct.
And so I would not necessarily use the metric of needing more male teachers, but I would also use the metric of needing more male mentors in the lives of our young men.
Right.
And so that is something that we would have to take a strategic approach towards, looking at where the disparity is and ensuring that we are able to fill the gaps, because all of our young people are important. And if the men are falling by the wayside, it means that a specific approach is needed to target them, look at the issue and find a solution. Because if we allow them to fall by the wayside, we are going to inherit a very dangerous society.
That is so true. And of course, I want us to talk now in your new role as the keeper, so to speak, of the Buku-Mount Pleasant electoral district. Now, you would have campaigned against a comrade of yours, you know, a fellow villager, right? You all are from the Buku-Mount Pleasant area. You would have stood side by side in the same political party at one time. How, and of course, I wouldn't ask because I hear people ask, you know, when we're going into these things, did you think you would win? But of course, you go in to win. So that's not the thought. But how did it feel in terms of transitioning from the People's National Movement into the TPP and not just going up in your electoral district against someone you may not have been familiar with, but someone you would have worked closely with?
How did it feel? It was a very inspirational moment and experience. It was one that reminded me that the battle may be difficult, but the more difficult the battle, the victory is so much sweeter. And what I am grateful for is that I would have run a very clean campaign. There was no animosity. I know many persons were eagerly looking forward to me going on a platform and bashing my previous organization.
Right.
However, as I indicated in one of my speeches, I am grateful for the experiences that I was able to have in my former organization, because like it or not, those experiences would have contributed to the individual that I am today. And so in leaving my former organization, there is no animosity, there is no hatred, and there is no bitterness. I've also been told that elevation needs no explanation. And so as I leave, and as I have left, there's no need for me to dwell on the past, but more so to learn from the experiences, to learn from the mistakes that I would have seen. There's a saying that goes, when someone falls, don't laugh, but learn. And so it's important to learn from the past mistakes of others and ensure that as you move forward in life, that you don't repeat those mistakes. And so my approach to my electoral district would be one of personal representation, where people see you regularly, where by the time the next 4 years comes around, campaigning would be a much easier process because I have put in the work. The first term in office is a chance the people gives to you, but the other terms in office are the ones that you work for. And so for this 4 years, I am going to ensure that the people of Buko, Mount Pleasant and Canaan not only feel represented, but see that they would have made the right decision when they elected me on January the 12th.
What are at least 2 projects or initiatives you would like to implement as Assemblyman for your electoral district? And how does that fit into the TPP's blueprint presented?
Wonderful. So in walking around and meeting members of my electoral district, I recognize that the sporting facilities within my district, because I have 2, which is Mount Pleasant and down at Buko, and I also have 1 bordering, which is Canaan,
right,
needs significant attention. So that is going to be one of the first priority areas that we would focus on, recognizing that my district is heavily into sports. I have a number of football teams, I have a number of young men who are passionate about sports and so forth. So that is one of the first priority areas. One of the second priority areas is to ensure that the development of the Buko Beach, extension of the jetty, the slipway and so forth, a bit of more regulation as it pertains to the layout and the huts and so that are popping up on the beach, and the management of that would be the second, coupled with more personal representation. So like one of the things that I mentioned on the platform would have been the assistance to single parents, because I recognize that as I went through my electoral district, that there's a significant need as it pertains to single parents within the district who have a different struggle, especially those with multiple children. And so it is my intention to be that bridge over the troubled waters that they are going through. Because as I imagine, last evening I was sitting with a group of young men and they were telling me that I am the boss now, and I had to explain to them that when you vote for someone, that person is not the boss. That person has been elected to serve you. So I am here to serve the people of my electoral district.
And that is how it should be, but many of us don't see it that way. We see our assemblymen, we see our MPs as the boss, and though we would have voted and put whether you voted for the winning person or not, you would have exercised that right and you would have placed trust in someone to act on your behalf. But we do see, whether it's because some people get into office and forget that they are there to serve, you know, how do you really help, especially your young person, understand the power of that vote and the power of allowing someone to be your representative?
Well, in my electoral district, I have been an advocate for youth involvement. And so you would recognize that no matter what they would have tried in my electoral district, they tried all manner of things. They called me Judas. However, your work would always speak for itself. And nothing can tarnish the work that you do as an individual. And once you have Almighty God before you, behind you and around you, no matter what comes your way, you know that you are going to overcome it. And so the young people have always reminded them that the power lies at the tip of their finger to elect who they want to serve them. And campaigning for me was not a difficult task, because I met persons that I would have helped along the way. I met young persons that I would have assisted in finding employment, those who probably needed assistance in writing resumes and preparing for interviews and so forth. And just to hear the amount of persons that I would have been able to touch and impact their lives out of office gave me an even more inspiration as to what I would be able to do in office.
Right.
Because my mantra has always been aspire to inspire before you expire.
I like that. Repeat it so our viewers can soak that in.
My mantra has always been aspire to inspire before you expire.
Excellent. I want us to continue talking about, you know, service. Here you are as assemblyman, and I've heard people call you newcomer. I've heard people, you know, say, oh, he brave to go up again, Mr. Dennis. But those of us who are aware of your background, we know that, again, you're a youth advocate. You have been involved not just in your local community, but Tobago at large. And I believe you can hold your end against anybody, and you're not necessarily the veteran that people think you are. How do you allow people now to get to know who you are? Because yes, you might have been somebody in the public, but now you are really there for everyone to see as assemblyman. How do you get persons who may not have voted for you, who may not support your ideologies now, get to trust you? How do you open yourself in a safe way so that they can now maybe pay more attention, because you have been always working on the ground, pay more attention to who you are as their representative?
For me, it is about the proof being in the pudding. And so once people see that your representation equals performance, then the trust would come. And so when people see that you would have made a commitment to do X and X was done, that trust continues to build. And trust is something that is easily broken, yes, and something that is difficult to build. But consistent, exceptional performance as an area representative is going to equate to people continuously employing you to be their representative, but also having that level of trust in you that what you say you will do, you will do.
And how do you balance the expectations of your constituents? Reality is you will not be able to meet the needs, every individual need of your constituency, and even collectively, because there is only, at the end of the day, so much can be done. And there is, you know, sometimes I think because Tobago and places in the Caribbean, small societies, and we're all very familiar with each other. So unlike larger countries where you really don't have that direct access to your representative, a place like Tobago, I mean, we could see you in the supermarket, see you at church, you know, just come up and say, hey, this is what we want, or I need this. How do you balance the expectations of the members of your constituency for them to understand, though you are going to do your best, though you are going to give your all may not and will not be able to meet the expectation or needs of every individual member?
Well, the first thing that you would do is to ensure that you don't make any commitments that you know you would be unable to make. The thing is, Natalie, as a assemblyman, as a politician, persons are going to come at you with many requests.
Right.
But you would have to sit and disaggregate what is possible now, what would be possible 2 years down the road, and then be able to guide them and guide those expectations.
But we don't want to hear that, Mr. Dinoon. I vote for you and I want you to give me this now.
Right. Now, I prefer that you be upset with me for telling you the truth as it pertains to, you may tell me that you want your yard to be cast or to be paved right now, and I say, Natalie, the allocations for paving now, the earliest possibility may be 2028.
Right.
And so I would indicate to you that I would try my utmost best to fulfill your request.
Right.
But I am not going to tell you that, yes, I'm going to get it done by Sunday, and when Sunday comes, you have an expectation, and the yard is not paved, and then you now are upset, you are ranting, and you have distrust in your assemblyman.
Right.
And so guiding the expectations of your constituency is important, and guiding them is important through facts and through the truth. And so say, for example, you may come and say you want X, and I tell you, well, Natalie, X may be possible, but these are the steps that need to be taken to
Right.
have that done.
Right.
And so when I walk you through the process and make you feel a part of the process, it's a bit easier for you to understand when it would be done, if it would be done.
And I think that is so important, not just for an assemblyman or, someone with political influence to understand, but even just in our everyday living, there are so many persons who are in need, and sometimes they just don't know where to start, and being able to walk them through a process, having that support for them. It's amazing how people feel intimidated when you tell them you have to complete a form, and sometimes and it may sound as something trivial to a certain part of society, but the reality is, filling out a form can be very intimidating, and it's not like they don't want help. So that form sits there.
Well, the thing about it is, as I indicated earlier, my style of leadership would be a personal one.
Right.
And so a young man reminded me in Mount Pleasant that the best way to serve your electoral district is to know them. And that is something that I took very personal. Because if I am aware that you would have challenges with a form, when I invite you to sign up, I would ensure that I have staff available to assist you with the process.
Right.
Because I recognize that some persons have significant difficulty asking for help.
Yes.
And so they prefer to just leave the form by the wayside.
Yes.
I've had experiences where a person said that they want their house fixed, and you give them a form and you come back a month after and the form is still there. And or not until you sit with them and you go through the form and you sign it up for them, then they become a bit more comfortable. But it's something that you have to offer, because not everyone has the ability to ask, and sometimes there is a significant level of pride that is there.
Yes.
And so emotional intelligence as a leader is significantly important to be able to recognize and to be able to know that that person needs assistance beyond just giving them a form. They need assistance to do the form itself. They need assistance to walk them through the process.
Yeah, and not chastise them, because sometimes even when you go in government offices and you have to go through that process, or even I always bring up this point, you go to the health center and you have to register, and sometimes people, you don't want everybody to know your business, and the clerk repeating everything loud for the whole clinic to hear, and so I think we have to treat people with sensitivity, with respect. Yes, you as the clerk need to get your job done, and you can get it done. And you mentioned in terms of people not asking for help, and it is my observation that the people who really need help oftentimes are the ones who don't know how to ask and where to go.
And again, so that comes into play where you have to have a personal relationship with your electoral district and know their needs. And so that is why in walking and campaigning, I have taken the time to catalog the conversations, taking the time to catalog the issues. And so now that I have been elected the assemblyman, I would have to now go through all the issues that I would have met and prioritize to see how best we could start solving some of the issues. As it pertains to, like, for example, housing repairs and so forth, we have self-help. There's a gentleman whose home would have been burnt down in my electoral district, so we have been walking him through the process of getting access to the grants and so forth. And something that I am looking forward to doing within this term is to make those grants a bit more accessible.
Right.
Sometimes the process is a bit too long and winding, and so to make it a bit more streamlined and easily accessible by the people who need it the most. Because when your house is burnt, you really don't want to be running here and running there. You want the assistance now because you more than likely don't have anywhere to live.
Right.
And the rental assistance that the government will give you for the next 3 months, yes, it will be good, but you still want to know that the process has begun as it pertains to rebuilding your property. And so I have been listening to the cries of the people. I have been listening to the needs of my electoral district. And so I am better positioned to not only solve the problems that I have heard, but to implement real change and life-changing measures into the lives of the persons who have elected me into office.
And as we look to wrap up, when we look at the number of persons who voted versus the number of registered voters, you see there's a big gap. How do you, in your position now as assemblyman, as somebody out there, encourage, again, I want to go back to youth because I know that's one of your focal areas. How do you encourage those who will be eligible to vote at the next general elections, at the next THA elections, to really exercise that constitutional right? Because when you really look at the figures, you know, it's just about half of the persons who came out to vote. How do you encourage people to, you know, see the importance or feel more engaged in the process?
Now, Natalie, we have to look at a number of factors as to why the percentage of voters would be what it is. There is a segment of our society that, because of their religious practices, don't participate in the voting process.
Right.
There's another segment of our society that are registered to vote, but they don't live on the island, and so they would not have been here during the voting process.
Right.
There's another segment of society that may not be interested in voting because they perceive that voting may not benefit them. As you rightfully said, that you have to get up and go to work the next day. To those persons, I would remind them that the people that you elect into office, the policies and the decisions that they make significantly affect the lives that you live. Say, for example, when the Prime Minister got into office, one of the things that she would have done was reduce the cost of super gasoline, which would have affected the lives of all persons who use super gasoline. The same way, if she had increased it, it would have affected all the lives of the persons who use it. Say, for example, she would have implemented a step-by-step process to increase the age to NIS. And so that would affect everyone. And so you have to recognize that the people that you elect into office are going to have an impact on the lives that you live, no matter sometimes how small or how big. And to those persons, I would encourage them to exercise your constitutional right to be a part of the voting process. The thing is, it is your right. The same way it is your right to vote, it is your right to choose not to vote. And some persons are inspired by different things and are motivated by different things as to why they should or should not vote. And so, what I loved was when I was scrolling through Facebook, I saw Auntie Kathleen at the school that she has there, engaging.
That's at Little Jewels.
At Little Jewels, engaging the young persons in the process. I saw she did a play-by-play of the swearing in and so forth.
Yes.
And that is something that was done when I was in primary school at Scarborough Roman Catholic. We used to come and used to take part in the voting process and vote and so forth. And I see a number of primary schools are now again bringing that back on stream. When we, as a society, train our children of the importance of voting from such a tender age, when they are old, according to the scripture, train a child in the way he shall go, so that when they are old, they will not depart, they would be a bit more interested in the governmental process and the constitutional right of voting. So those young persons who are taking part by Little Jewels, by the time they get to primary school, if they take part in that, by the time they get to the actual age to vote, they are excited to exercise their constitutional right. I am seeing now a few young persons who are voting for the first time excited, a few of them who have no interest. But if we are able to birth that passion and love for country from a very tender age, I believe that over the next couple of years, you will be able to not only increase the voter turnout, but increase the interest in the governmental aspect and running of the island.
And I want to thank you for your time. I know that there's a press conference coming up at 10 a.m. and of course you would be there in attendance. And my next guest, Assemblyman Zarisha Hackett, also has to be at that conference, that media briefing, and I know that time is of essence this morning. So I want to say thank you very much as we make way for Ms. Hackett to join us. And of course, viewers, we go for a very short break. I hope those in control are hearing me. A very short break as we prepare to have a conversation with Assemblyman Hackett this morning. So thank you again, Assemblyman Dinoni.
Want to get better? Where to start? What kind of exercise to do? What to eat? How to get restful sleep? Need a doctor to search for root cause? Look no further. Come to Majuba Hill Lifestyle Center Foundation at our Wellness Center in Goodwood, or Food Hub in Darrow Springs, Scarborough, or Doctor's Office in Goodwood and Darrow Spring. Contact 49 Swift 4979 438.
The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are at the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you.
Our world is filled with rhythm. Rhythm that's unapologetic, infectious, timeless. Rhythm is commitment in action. It's how we show up for each other with unrelenting support that goes the distance. Rhythm lives in the tiny beats of our most intimate moments and the seismic roars of our biggest achievements. Rhythm is resilience in motion. So even when things go out of sync, we do what it takes to bring the rhythm back. At Flow, we understand your rhythm because we live it. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you, with a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do, and our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
Thank you for staying with us, viewers, and welcome back. We go straight to our next guest, Assemblyman Zarisha Amina Hackett. And yes, it's that type of a morning where we call out the entire government name of our guest this morning. She's joining us virtually. Assemblyman Hackett, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. And how are you this morning after being sworn in again? Yes?
Oh, this is the third time.
Yes, yes.
Third time, twice in 2021, and then, of course, yesterday.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. It's a privilege, it's an honor, and, you know, we must be humbled in this moment that Tobago has given us another opportunity to serve as servant leaders of this great island.
Right, and of course, you know, this morning we're talking about what happens after the campaigning. You've worked hard, you've campaigned, and I am a member of your electoral district, actually, so I'm quite familiar with what goes on in that area. And I want to start off in terms of asking about representation. You're not new to this, all right? You have worked. And how much do you think your previous representation would have influenced the outcome of this election for your electoral district?
Let me start with communication. I think communication is most important. I was listening to Keegan, and he's correct. You may not be able to get everything done. It's unrealistic. As a matter of fact, we'd never have all the resources to get every single aspiration completed in any 4-year period. But I think communication is most important. It's the most essential part of governance. It's the most essential part of representation. And one of the things I've tried to do as area representative is keep that constant communication with my electoral district. As you would appreciate, and you may already have knowledge of, I don't live in my electoral district. I was born and raised there, but I don't live there. And I think it's one of the areas, as area representatives, we must be very mindful of. If you live in the electoral district, your residents can literally see you every day. They know where you live, they can knock on your door, they can come up to you, and that constant engagement is there. But when you don't live in your electoral district, you have to make that extra effort. It means that you have all lines of communication open. And when I say all lines, I have 2 phones. One is a business phone, one is a personal phone, and everybody in my electoral district is privy to both numbers. At some point in time, like right now, I'm doing this interview and my phone is ringing, right? At some point in time, you're unable to answer. But you see that follow-up that, unfortunately, I can't answer at the moment. Let me know if it's an emergency so I can stop what I'm doing to respond to you. If it's not, expect a call from me within the hour. Expect a message back, or a staff member would call you. Also, the importance of using these social media platforms. In the last year, my social media following on Facebook moved to 28,000 persons. Now, we know that's not my electorate. We know that there are persons who are just going to be interested in you, I guess, from the work you're doing or your presence. But social media is also very important in this day and this age. I also understand that a lot of persons are using their phones in communications. And so right now I have a WhatsApp group of almost 300 residents. And that group is open. Anyone can join once you're a member of the electoral district.
Right.
And we keep steady communication going there. And this is in this group that my district staff also assist me in ensuring that the needs of the district are met. I, however, want to say that the communication could always be better. And that is because your electorate would think that, it's your campaigning and they see you on the ground so often in that period, and we understand why. I mean, you're there trying to ensure that you return to office. And then they believe that right after that, it falters, it wavers, it's not as solid as it was leading up to the campaign. And that's one of the areas I don't ever want an electorate to think that I've taken them for granted with. The real work begins, although we're not assigned secretarial posts yet. We're still cleaning up and tying up in the areas we served in, the incumbents such as myself.
Right.
And you also want the electorate to understand that, listen, when you're not actually seeing me, it's because I'm doing the work to push what you've asked me or the mandate you've given to me to get done. So it's just that education of the work that happens in our dual capacity as legislators and as members of the executive arm, while maintaining that trust and that dependability and the fact that the electorate depends on you to be their voice in the room, to be their advocate, to be their chief fighter, and ensuring that they know that you're doing exactly what they've sent you or given you the charge or responsibility to so do.
And when you look at the preliminary data that's available in terms of voter turnout, your electoral district had well over 50% of persons coming out to vote, while in other electoral districts you see like 15%, 30-something%. What do you think accounts for that?
I was telling the election officer of a political organization, I was looking at where my colleagues were in terms of voter turnout, just as you said, and I was looking at mine. And when you look at what my closest opponent was able to garner and what I was able to garner, when you add that together, we had, and I'm trying to get the actual figures in terms of percentage, But when I looked at it comparatively, I realized that we had something different happening there.
Yes.
Let me first of all congratulate Mr. Akil Guy for stepping out so bravely into the politics. He himself would admit that, it wasn't his calling. And, he decided to take a stand and to step up into representational politics for the People's National Movement. And I want to tell him congratulations. And if he's really passionate about this, that he should reach out to me and let's work towards creating the best Bethesda Leketo we can together. The election is over. The political jerseys are off. And so I'm putting that olive branch out to him, in spite of how, hotly contested this seat was. Let's get it done together. He's actually my relative. I think what has happened is our passion fueled a kind of push in the district on both sides that pushed the numbers up. And I remember looking at the results on the night, after the polls had closed. And that first polling station where the result, was displayed on screen, that is the polling station that his immediate family and relatives, they live in that one. And I was looking at it since I was canvassing, looking at the numbers, looking at the names. And I said, this is the one that is going to give me some trouble. And you can't convince people who through blood or political association or ties, would have chosen that stance. And it doesn't mean that they're not probably appreciative of the work that I did, but people have choices. And in a democracy, you must respect that choice. And so I respected the fact that I was going to get some trouble in one particular polling station. And you know what happened on that night? That was the one polling station that was displayed very early on. So when persons saw that one, they were like, oh my gosh, Shakit is in trouble. I got so many calls. People were praying, people were crying.
And yes,
what does this mean?
And that's why it's so important for us to understand even, the process of this, because I was in a certain place as well. Right.
Yes, there's 7 polling divisions in my electoral district, and that was 1 of 7.
Right.
So that result was very early on.
Yes.
And I know in your electoral district, you know the voting patterns. And I looked at it when MP Sampson ran, and I looked at the numbers and the fact that we had 7 polling divisions as opposed to the 6 that I had when I ran in 2021. So when I looked at the new divisions and the fact that Bethesda was now the largest part of my electoral district, where previously it was Golden Lane, I said, you know what? I'll have to do some work to keep close to him there because he lives there. That's his hometown, just like me. And you're going to have a division there because persons will look at the 2 leaders and see, who's probably more accessible immediately and physically. They're, as I said, attached to through familial ties and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what my strategy is going to be? I'm going to appeal to those I know fully support me. I'm going to appeal to the first-time voters. I'm going to appeal to youth voters. I'm going to appeal to those who are usually on the fence and be able to utilize my track record. I'm going to stay away from the bashing and the personal attacks. And I'm going to also work on the areas I think I would have an advantage on him, which is Leketo and Golden Lane. And that little piece of woodlands. And that's exactly what I did. So if you see the results for Leketo and Golden Lane, for instance, you're going to see that I have rushed out so far ahead of him that, in spite of what may have happened with the divisions in the Bethesda area, that I was able to retain that seat. And as you rightfully said, pushed the electorate in a particular direction, unlike what we've seen across the other districts. And so, again, I'm saying congratulations to him for stepping out. That's a really difficult task to put yourself out there into representational politics and to understand that as a young person, that's a major, major sacrifice because you've aligned yourself politically. And in this space, a lot of backlash, a lot of negative elements come out of it. But because we've campaigned on Tobago is we, I want him to understand that the competent and the willing are welcomed into our political organization and into this administration. And so if he's really, really passionate about governance and really passionate about representing people and being an advocate, I want to offer this olive branch to him that he should reach out to me. I'll try to reach out to him as well, and let's do this together.
And I know that you have another engagement. So very quickly, I want us to address, looking at the voter turnout in your electoral district, it surpassed the pattern of what happened across the board on the island, right? When you look at the voter registration list, and we know that the list needs cleaning up, right? I always say there's a particular person in my village who has been deceased, and that name is still on the list, you know, and the polling card still comes for that individual.
Yes, I saw a lot of that too when you knocked on doors, when you know you've been to the funeral, when you know the immediate family and you're still seeing. Now, if it happened in the last month or so, I could understand, but persons who've been deceased for over a year, I have to reach out to the EBC and I'm like, you do these verification exercises, but they're not as accurate as they should be because I'm seeing. So it's
so we know, and then there are persons who are abroad and couldn't come home because they're studying, etc. So we have a working number in terms of the registered voters. But then when you look at the actual turnout, you're looking at just over 50, just below 50. Again, the numbers are changing because we are waiting on the official results from the EBC in terms of the drill down of data. But when you look at that, it means that you have a population where, and Assemblyman Dinoon would have addressed it from his point of view, you know, what is your take on how do you, your political party, you as an assemblyman, engage those around you to be a part of this process? Acknowledging what Assemblyman Dinoon said they have a right not to, but how do you engage them?
Sorry about that. Someone tried to call me. I just switched off phone. So what has happened is, I think this starts in our schools. I think education, because I mean, yes, as a representative, you're going out there and you're trying to express to your electorate why it's important to be a part of the democratic process. But I think that isn't something we should leave, you know, up to the behest of the elected or the potentially elected rep or anyone who is vying for office. I think our education system should hold that responsibility. And that is why we push so hard for this Tobago-centric curriculum. It's because we understood that, listen, as an island, as a nation, we need our electorate, we need our residents, our citizens to understand their role in the democratic process and in governance as a whole. And I think if we drill down into our education system, formally and informally, directly and indirectly, then we can have those conversations going in a very structured and strategic way. Understanding your role in governance, understanding why it's important for you to be a part of this process, understanding why you should hold your elected reps accountable and responsible and hold them to the highest standard as well is very important. And I think that along the way, we've been trying to do that, but we need to do some more and outside of the campaign period. I think in that particular period, it's so hectic. Everybody's just trying to, you know, crunch the numbers, get it done before polling day. And so it's not done in as an intricate and granular way as it should be done. But I think now that the election is over, we should utilize our roles as legislators to get into our communities and have them understand why showing up on election day, keeping your representatives accountable and holding them to task for their level of representation is important outside of the busy period of election. I also think that our younger voters need that type of support. You see them coming out in their numbers whenever you have a motorcade or any type of celebration. You're seeing so many persons in the jerseys and the parties, paraphernalia, and you're wondering where all these people on election day. Now, really and truly, when you look at how many voters we were able to retain as a political organization, just shy of 600 or so from what we were able to get out to the polls in 2021, we haven't done so badly. We've maintained that 16,000. And generally, when I look around the celebrators, you're seeing your actual faces, the persons who are in and around the political organizations. I think we've done well as a 2-year-old organization to build a support base and to retain that support base. But I don't want us to govern only for our base, and I don't want us to educate only our base. Tobago is we was our slogan. This mantra of having Tobago become the greatest little island on the planet is also very important to us building out what we want in terms of a literate society, one that understands the importance and value of political education and their role in governance and democracy. And so even our younger assemblymen, rather, like Mr. Dinoon, he's probably our youngest now, having just turned 30 about 2 or 3 weeks or so ago. I think we have to utilize these young assemblymen into getting the electorate, getting our residents excited about governance and being a part of the process and understanding their role and responsibility, with it being their civic duty to show up on election day, and not only show up then and then just falter away or fade away, but rather holding us to account. And I think that is one of the key responsibilities of us as a returning administration over the next 4 years, to educate the Tobago population. And it starts, as I said before, in our schools. So if I'm a Secretary of Education, or if I'm not, I'm going to encourage whoever that new portfolio holder to push that Tobago-centric curriculum. It has been a baby of the administration. We campaigned on it in 2021, and we were able to do the groundwork. And because it's so critical to us building out what we want to see as our pathways to progress, I want us to push political education, democratic education, and governance, and the structures that make who we an island as a part of the greater framework of Trinidad and Tobago to be front and foremost in the way we govern in the next 4 years.
Right, and I have to respect your time because I know you must get going pretty soon, and let me pose this as our last.
At 10, so
yes.
Nowhere until we can go until like 9 and 9:30.
Okay.
I live very close to where we're going to have the...
Now that I have that, right, good. And I want to talk about campaigning has done. You've been sworn in as the assemblyman for the Bethesda-Leketo area electoral district. Yeah. What can the members of your electoral district expect from you as you hit, you get to work immediately?
Yes, so straight out of swearing in, one of the expectations and immediate deliverables is that Culloden Recreation Ground, right? So the larger Golden Lane area can expect that recreation space they've clamored for since Ochoa Charles was their area representative. May his soul rest in peace. The thing I didn't do is promise that. I didn't make it a promise, because when I saw for 16 years under the People's National Movement, it wasn't delivered. I wondered if there was something holding back that delivery. And so I didn't want to make a promise I could not keep.
Right.
And then when we got into government in 2021, December, I realized that where they were trying to get the land, the PNM that is, it was causing some concerns. And then I kept hearing this story of this estate, Culloden Estate, with a $1.9 million already placed in escrow, and we were pushing and trying to get the legalities of it sorted as a Tobago House of Assembly. And I immediately went to the chief. Let's pursue this estate. Let's see what's holding it back from the Tobago House of Assembly attaining this as one of its investment properties. And we were able to just last year get all signed off on it. And, right before the election, we were asked if, we want to clear the land and get it started. And I told the chief secretary, let's win and come back in and get this done. We have an electorate that believes that anything that happens in or around an election period is what is called election gimmickry, or election mamagism, or just pander to trying to get that support out. And I did not want this to be seen as something that was not as important as we know it to be. And so I asked chief, let's just push, get this election out of the way, get back into governance, and then really deliver this very meaningful project to the people of Golden Lane. So the Culloden Recreation Ground is first on the cards. I also want to speak to the residents of Leketo. You've also made a choice when it comes to the type of infrastructure required for your village, and we chose between that recreation ground there in Table Peace with a very aged pavilion, one of the oldest pavilions on the island of Tobago, and your community center. And because, of course, resources were very limited, the villagers, through consultation, chose the community center. And with that now being delivered, it was delivered last January. Well, that would have been 2025 January. It was delivered. We now move on into demolishing that pavilion. It is, at a place where there can be no refurbishment of it. It's really, really disintegrated, and it's going to be a health and safety hazard very soon if we don't demolish it. I'm going to have some consultations so the residents would know, we're going to demolish, and we're going to do a completely new rebuild, and we're going to do a completely new hard court as well for them, because it's at a state of total disrepair, and I think it's going to cost us less to just redo it. We also want to try to get that field into regulation size. Where the lights are currently placed, it doesn't give it the size that is required for official games to be placed there. So we're going to do a movement of the lights, and that's the immediate infrastructural concern as a collective for Leketo. Right.
Right.
Bethesda, because it forms a larger part of the Plymouth village, and that's one of the things I was so worried about when the EBC split Plymouth from
Yes.
Bethesda, because Bethesda is actually a subset of Plymouth,
Of
just
Plymouth.
as Egypt or Bethlehem is
Yes.
of Bethel. And so when we saw that boundary, change, and you're calling the district Bethesda like it's, I was like, how complicated is this going to be? Because residents of that area see themselves as one in the same.
Yes.
And so, for instance, when we speak to infrastructural needs of Bethesda, because they don't have a recreation ground, they use the Plymouth recreation ground, they don't have a health center, they use what's there. They were fortunate enough, and I should say, were fortunate enough to get another multi-purpose facility. So Plymouth has a community center, and Bethesda has a multi-purpose facility. The infrastructural needs are not as demanding when it comes to collective needs. What we do need to spend some time treating with our roads. We have a real, and I'm speaking about the entire district, and I'm going to hold secretary, well, we'll have to wait to see who's going to become the secretary of infrastructure. Can't call out names yet, because we don't know. But whoever becomes secretary of infrastructure, I am going to hold you to the highest standard. I'm going to call you out. Lovingly, of course, you're a team, but we understand that when we sit around that table, we each hold each other accountable for the responsibility given under those various divisions, because we want the best for our people. And you see, when you go back to your people, you want them to understand that you've really, pushed for the needs of that district for them. You don't want them to think we're chummy and so we allow each other to just, we really have some solid conversations in executive council, and we push each other across and around the table to ensure that we deliver to our people, because we want, when we go back to them, and they're who we have to answer to always. We want, when we go back to them, that we're able to say, listen, I've given you the best possible representation I can, and I've tried my very best for you, and I'm your voice in that room, and I'm not fearful of, affiliation and the fact that it's my colleagues. In a respectful way, we each hold each other accountable in that executive council room to ensure that the deliverables are met for residents. So Bethesda have really asked for us to do some improvement with their roads. They've also asked for us to get something done with that Annersville Hotel. The fact that it's just there like a ghost town. If the Tobago House of Assembly can find a way for us to, even if it's a private investor, to get involved and to probably repurchase the property, and let's get some economic activity going again. And then, of course, I would always be in and around my 3 primary schools in the district, pushing them to the greatest academic excellence, but also pushing the technical vocational skills and training through them. And so when I return as Secretary of Education or not, Bethesda Government Primary, Table Peace Government Primary, and Golden Lane Government Primary, I will be with you every step of the way, because I understand the importance of education and youth empowerment, and I'm going to continue doing that through our schools.
Right.
Outside of that, though, we have several individual needs in our district. Lots of residents require retaining walls, access roads, proper drainage, even assistance with their homes, titles, just to make their way of life a bit easier. And I'm going to continue to champion those causes. The thing about area reps, we don't highlight when the individual needs are met, because persons are very mindful and sensitive of you putting their personal information out there. And that's one of the things I was able to do well in the first term, because you don't have to depend on the Tobago House of Assembly to meet those immediate needs.
Right.
As an area representative, you can actually utilize your influence, your network, your own salary to assist your residents with those individual needs. So the smaller projects will continue. And of course, the larger projects, we're going to push the divisions to really get into our 15 districts and to spread the resources around the island in an equitable fashion. So when we go back to the goals in 2030, we can account to the people on what we were able to deliver to them as a 15 elected representatives and no opposition.
And you've mentioned infrastructural development, but when you look at your human capacity and you look at Tobago's aging population, and I know your electoral district has a large aging population, and there are
very
plans,
large, probably highest on the island.
Yes. Have you considered any specific plans as yet for the elderly in that district?
Right. So actually I did, and in the last term we were able to deliver through TITL, the Tobago Information and Technologies Limited, a solid program for seniors, ensuring that they were kept up to speed with digital literacy. We have a lot of elders who feel like, they're just home. not doing anything during the day, not able to keep abreast of the advancements in digitization,
Right.
and not being able to be engaged in a way that makes them feel as if they're included. And so what we were able to do through my electoral district office is to create a database of all our residents 60 and above. We saw those with special needs, and we were able to provide specific attention and care to them through wheelchairs, walkers, and even caretakers. A lot of our residents live alone, and if they don't, most of the family is at work or school during the day, and so they're left alone. So we were able to create that database so we can have the Division of Health, Wellness, and Social Protection, be able to get into these homes and provide them with the support required. We were also able to bring in the village of Golden Lane that does not have a community center. The Division of Health partnered with us, and we had district health fairs. So we had our elderly come there. They were able to be screened to see if they required that cataract surgery, to be able to look at their diabetes and other lifestyle diseases they may encounter, as well as other types of testing, and the requisite support was provided to them. We were also able to treat them. And when I say treat them, I mean bring them into the same spaces to have them interact and be engaged with persons they haven't seen in years, although they're living in the same district. And I think those social activities are also very important for aging community. As I said before, they feel as if, they're isolated, and it happens because everybody's out there looking to make their living, and we can understand that. But we also have to remember them. They are the bedrock of our society, and we have to be able to ensure that they're included, that they feel as if they're given a seat at the table, that their voice matters, and that they're so actively engaged that they are not just literally home or waiting, on that day when probably, their life is going to end. And I feel like the conversations, not only with their age group, is important, but also with younger persons. And that is why in that skills training camp that I've also initiated in our electoral district was very important, because there we actually had our elders being some of the tutors, teaching the farine making, the pone making, how do you do smoked fish, dried fish, all the skills. We try to engage some of our elders, and they feel important. They feel as if they're contributing positively to the district. And I want my other colleagues to also, and a lot of them have been doing it, but our new colleagues joining us, engage your elderly, document what they were able to provide and to contribute to Tobago. We have a lot of strengths in our elders that we need to document before they pass on with all that knowledge. A lot of walking encyclopedias in our districts, and so many of them to mention now. But whenever you have the opportunity to sit at their feet and document exactly what our island has grown from and the developmental trajectory of the island and the contributions they made, I think that's very important, to have them feel important, to feel special, to feel included. And so that will continue under this next 4 years, engagement with our elders, just as much as we engage with our young persons.
And I just have one more question for you on a lighter, or maybe not so lighter note. When the public sees Assemblyman Hackett stepping out, all eyes are usually on you. You present yourself in a particular way. I have noted even the young ladies who work around you, how they carry themselves, and of course the influence comes from you. But persons sometimes see this in a negative light. Again, I always say women are not... We are judged on a different measure. So a man can carry himself neatly and we admire him. But when a woman dresses up, she's too much. How do you balance that physical image? How do you balance that physical image in terms of people who don't know you, know what you stand for, but they see well put together Miss Hackett, people say you put too much emphasis on the outward, and they don't know you. And how do you make that balance and allow people to get to know you?
Yes, and it's very difficult because we judge a book by its cover.
Yes.
We look at the external. Now, it's very easy when I have persons defending me. When I say defending, persons who know me and know that I've always been like this. So my mommy has been a hairdresser her entire life. And I literally took that from her,
Right.
you know. And so all when I was in the university, that is how I paid my rent. I literally opened the hairdressing salon in my apartment there in
Right.
St. Augustine, and that is what I did to survive, more or less, right? I wasn't privy to the financial assistance of the THA, and my parents couldn't afford, you know, full tuition when I went to school, and so that is what I did to survive. And if anybody knows me, this is exactly who I was. And I always say, had I not been a teacher full time or now into the politics, I would have been a cosmetologist and done it, you know, to the best of my ability and pushed the business in a particular direction. So this isn't me waking up when the day comes and going to a makeup artist every day, or running to a hairdresser or getting my nails done every day. Most of what you see is me getting it done, from designing what I wear to, you know, just putting myself together. And it's effortless.
Even if you had someone else doing, that's your choice, and that's my thing. And I think sometimes when we come from these small
But I
societies,
think the effortlessness of it is what society doesn't see, because when they see it, it looks like a lot of time and effort goes into it.
and not understanding this is a skill set. Yes, this is a skill set of
this
yours.
morning I woke up and in 15 minutes I was able to do my makeup, right? And I was able to get my hair curled, and that's the thing. When you're doing it, it comes naturally, it comes effortlessly, and this has always been me. And so what I have to do, I overcompensate on doing all the other things, trying to tone myself down. And then I realize, you know what? You're not making yourself comfortable because you're not being you. I was making a joke with a friend, and I told them when I became a politician for the first time in that 6-6 period, you know, someone asked me, so you're going to go on your social media and you're going to archive your photos of you dressing up a lot and you know, being out. And I was like, no, because one of the things I wanted to be is unapologetically me in this period. And I think that it's one of the things that, as you said, women have to go through in the politics. I saw in this campaign other women who on a regular day would send me a message. Where did you get that hair? Where did you get those shoes? How come you're so strong? Pulled me down in this last campaign. People who in 1 week in my inbox are asking me, you know, how did you do this? Or how were you able to balance this with that? You know, I admire you so much. On social media the next week, literally on a train, and I don't want to call it a hate train, I don't know what to call it, but literally jumping on the bandwagon of the bashing Z. And the very same people, when you win, back in your inbox congratulating you. You know, and this is not for the faint of heart, because it can have you very untrusting of people in. This path that I'm following needs for me to be very trusting, very forgiving, very patient, very compassionate, and very generous. And so I'm going to hold those attributes very close to me. I understand that it's human nature, you know, to question what you don't understand, or to call out what you think you should, because that puts the person in a box. But I'm never ever going to limit myself and be encapsulated by what society thinks that a woman in politics should be. I see these same people acknowledging and admiring people like Lisa Hanna, and Lisa Hanna has been a Miss Universe
and fashionista. Definitely.
In the same breath, you know, me, who've always been, I mean, I've never been Miss Universe, and I never aspire towards that. But how can you in the same breath not love your own, not respect your own, and at least do it behind closed doors and then publicly have all this bashing? I have 2 daughters, and they're very opposite. I have one who is the total image of me, and the other one almost tomboy. You know, she doesn't want to see anything that looks so glamorous and so on. And that's personalities, and I push my daughters to be very confident in themselves. And there's a difference between being cocky and confident. Understanding that there is a level of responsibility in you as a woman to pull others up with you. And as a teacher, I was able to do that again, so effortlessly. And I brought those elements and those attributes and qualities into my role as a politician. That nurturing instinct, that ability to see beyond the external, that emotional intelligence, and that confidence in self, and the fact that I can stand up in any room and be unapologetically me. And I'm going to maintain that, so persons need to get used to that. What I need to do, though, is prove to persons over and over again that you should not judge this. There's way more than this, you know, and my heart has to always be played open and push persons to understand that yes, there's so much more than the external.
And
To me,
it's a life lesson for all of us, because we often do that to each other, whether it's one extreme where we say the person is glamorous, or we see the person walking through Scarborough in their slippers and doing business, and we like, you couldn't dress better than that, you know. So we do that to each other.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, we do that to each other. But Assemblyman Hackett, I want to thank you for your time this morning. I know that a lot is expected of you, and that you will continue to do your best. And as you look to head on for the rest of your day, I will just allow you to talk to your members of your electorate district. You may want to say thank you again. I know you have been, but you can use this platform at this time as we wrap up this morning.
Thank you so much for that. So Bethesda, the homes of Adventia, Leketo, Golden Lane and Woodlands. Very soon I'm going to be planning a very major thank you event for you. This weekend is Bethesda's harvest, and that is the only reason why I have not planned something yet. But you deserve all the celebration in the world. This election was not won by me. I could only vote for myself once. This election, all 1,140 something of you who came out to the polls, pushing our numbers beyond what most of the island was able to give in their districts, meant a lot to me. And it was a very tough fight. And as I said it before, you know, I had a candidate coming out of the exact area I was born and raised in. And so that particular village made a choice between both of us, you know. But the rest of the village, in a very outright way, pushed my numbers, you know, beyond the point of me even believing that you would stand in the gap for me like this. And I want to tell you that I'm so grateful that you've, you know, given me the opportunity to serve again and vested all your hopes and dreams in me. One person to be your chief fighter, your chief advocate, your chief activist district. I know there's been a lot of neglect. This what has gone is gone. It's a brand new day, a brand new dawn. And when I say a lot of neglect, I mean over the years as a Tobago House of Assembly. And I tried in 4 years to really try to close that gap in terms of development and progress. And I want you to know that you have that in me. Your voice to push my colleagues and to push this Tobago House of Assembly in the direction that brings progress and development, not only infrastructurally, but of course through human capacity development and the empowerment of you, my people. So thank you so much. I love each and every one of you. The political jersey is off now. I am now the representative of all of the electorate, and feel free when our electoral districts offices have reopened to come into the electoral district. See me knocking on your door, telling you thanks, and let's get the work of Bethesda Leketo started once again. Thank you. I love you so much.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman. I am keeping true. You gave me until 9:30. It is 9:29, so let you take your leave. Viewers, thank you so much for spending the extra time with us this morning. I know everyone has something to do, but you are here and you stayed with me, and I really appreciate that. So it is Friday, the 16th of January. Imagine we're almost halfway. In fact, we are halfway. We're on the other half of January. The month is looking to end pretty soon. Thank you so much for staying with us this morning. It is Friday. The weekend has begun. And remember, you are your brother's keeper. So until next time, we see each other.